stream. And then it should just go live. We should be good to go. Excellent connection.
And it's still, we're still on Brownie post game, right? It's the same no matter what game it is.
That's correct. We are on Brownie post game. So we are live. It's much easier for any non-YouTubers out there. It's much easier to actually just randomly ad hoc go live than it is to schedule a live event, because then you got to put in a different stream key. You got to hit go on OBS, and you got to hit go on your web browser, YouTube. This makes it much easier. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. I'm Mike Killey. I run this channel, Brownie Post Game. Appreciate it. With me is Mike Restano. Also, you can find him on Twitter at Bonzo1273. Just wanted to come on, do a little midweek talk about the Browns. We got a quarter of the season done. We're 3-1. We are 3-1 on a 3-game winning streak. On the Cleveland Browns, having just put up 49 freaking points. What? Restano, what do you think about that, man?
As I sit here and tweet out to my fans, I say that loosely. I got to tell you, it's I don't want to say hard to believe, because the pieces were in place for the most part last year. So, I mean, what we're seeing this year is what we thought we were going to get last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Fast forward, here we are. I mean, 3 weeks, 35 plus points. As bad, and I don't want to say bad, because the defensive line is playing really well. The linebackers, I mean, it's a weakness. There's no question there. We get Phillips back. I will say Malcolm Smith has looked pretty good, and obviously we got Wilson back. Taki, I think that I don't know. I don't think that. I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I don't know if the verdict's quite out about Taki, but I think it's to the point with Taki that it's like, all right, this guy's not going to take over a game, right? We're not looking at Ray Lewis here, right? We're and I think with Mac Wilson, I think the other guy too, the linebacker, it's like, unfortunately, with the injury, that probably put a little bit of a dent, in his progress, I would say, but I expect big things. I think he's a legit guy who we're going to grow into at that position. The other ones, Malcolm Smith, I don't know.
So far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. I can't complain about him. No, it's more about Sendejo.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, and look, I get it. Delpit was supposed to be that guy,
right?
And the injury was unfortunate. I still can't believe it happened, but I mean, it's 2020, and it's part of the course at this point. But I think that really killed us on the back end, because I think if you and again, we don't know. I mean Delpit might not even play well or have played well, but all signs pointed towards he was going to be a mega upgrade for us at that position. So
right,
it's unfortunate. We've got Sendejo. People have talked about Earl Thomas, but I mean, we know the history there, and we
that
don't
ain't
bring
happening
that in the locker room. So
yeah, that ain't happening.
No, and there's a couple other guys out there, but I mean, it seems to me that they are comfortable rolling with who they have right now, and they feel like they can coach them up. And
I mean, it's a weird position to be in.
I agree.
Sendejo, like 33-year-old, free safety. I mean, how much more coaching can you do? At some point, you can
play or you can't.
Yeah, it's the player, right? And if he's honestly, I have no problem with him as a backup free safety.
Agreed.
Right? No problem. Carl Joseph, same thing. Like I mean, I think Carl Joseph actually brought in to start, right?
Yeah,
which is like,
he's been solid.
He hasn't been bad, but I mean, if you look at our defensive line has been fantastic. I mean, Myles Garrett is single-handedly willing us to possessions, not just sacking the quarterback. 3 games in a row, sacking the quarterback and taking the damn ball away in critical times. that have led to touchdowns that have then resulted in, as close to the game we are, winning games. And
Yeah,
that's
most
what, I
definitely.
mean, when we drafted Myles Garrett, this is the guy that I was sitting there last year. We talked about this a lot last year. It's like,
Yeah.
when are we going to see the Myles Garrett that can just take over a game and just Aaron Donald, just push his will upon an offensive line? And I think we're finally seeing that.
We're seeing it. Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of an endurance thing that we're seeing with Myles. He's huffing and puffing a lot, and to be honest, like, if you look at the guy, he's definitely not in bad shape.
Mm-mm.
So it's more about, I just think he's so big and strong, and those muscles need oxygen to breathe. Like, they need oxygen. This is the same thing with like big, big fighters. UFC guys, the guys that are just big and muscular, don't always beat the guys that are more lean, because it doesn't take as much air to push those muscles. So it's an interesting thing with Miles. I mean, he's having a obviously Pro Bowl type year, defensive MVP type year, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And the offense is doing amazing. And then those color rush jerseys, man, like those color rush jerseys that we were wearing, the stripe free color rush, which I was a little bit suspect on. I'm still not in love with them.
But they're not as bad as you thought they would be,
Yeah, I
right?
mean,
Same,
I was like, after a while, I just forgot, right? Which is
Right.
the unfortunate thing, because I feel like the old retro color rush jerseys with the stripes, they were so bold,
They were.
and there was nothing wrong with them, which is why I'm still surprised they did it, other than they wanted to maybe change up have certain like design elements that were the same across all jerseys, so that the
Sort of
number
like that brown
font.
out kind of look too. Yeah.
Yeah, and the font, honestly, the font on the number, I think, is like one of the things that they wanted to keep consistent.
Yeah.
Fine. I just still don't think. I think there's a lot of people that are with me on that too. Let me give a shout out to some of the guys that are in chat. We got Edward Junior Tarts here. What's going on, dude? Cleveland BCI, Chris P, Ozzy Travels, David Evan Smith, Mr. Roll Up, Acceptness, Next Gen with the Woof, Ayush Desai. Dejo made too many mistakes, but he will play better going forward. So
Now I got one
Ayush
for you.
is confident. What's up?
So I'm looking at the PFF grades. What do you think? Let me say this first.
Yeah.
Where do you, out of 80 free safeties, where do you think Sendejo ranks? And what do you think his overall score is?
So I'm probably going to be surprised by this, but I would say he's probably towards the back. However, I think the other thing with it is he had that forced fumble this week, on Ezekiel Elliott. So he's credited for that, even though I was telling my dad, I was like, who we really should credit for that fumble is Taki's helmet. Because he just sat down on his helmet, which refused to tackle him, which then gave Sendejo the ability to do it. But if I was
You
to
can only
say,
get the rest of them to do it.
yeah, out of 80 free safeties,
80 free and you know what? I'll go. I'm going to give you a threefer.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Because we mentioned these three guys, so we're going to go free safety,
Okay.
strong safety. There's 80 of each.
Okay.
And then we're going to go linebacker at 79, and then we'll.
All right.
So we'll go Sendejo first.
Sendejo, let's 58.
All right. Do you want to guess each one, or do you want to?
Let's guess each one.
Tackle each one.
Let's guess each one. So Sendejo, I'm going to say 58 out of 80.
Hold on, let me write this down.
Okay. I think Taki is probably gonna look better. For some reason, PFF likes to grade him highly.
So what did you say? You said 50?
I said 58
on
Sendejo. Joseph.
And what do you think Sendejo's overall defensive 0 to 100?
Oh, that's score? A good question. 63.
63. Okay. Now we'll go to Carl Joseph.
Joseph, I'm gonna say he's 38.
All right. And his score?
He'll be a 67.
67. Now, I was going to go Malcolm Smith because we were talking about him, but I'll go one better. We'll go Smith and Taki Taki since we're talking about him.
Okay, so and how many? There's 79 linebackers that get scored?
Correct.
Smith doesn't have that. He doesn't have that much production. If you're looking at like tackles and sacks and everything, he doesn't have that much production. 50 on Smith, and Smith's number is going to be he's going to be a 61, and then Taki Taki is going to be 40. Or give him 30. We'll give Taki Taki 39.
39.
And then his number is going to be 71, which 71. Is like, again, because they like to score him high with PFF. I could be way off, guys. Like, I'm not an expert at this. I'm legitimately just curious about all of these numbers, and if I'm terrible or if I'm like dead on, I could be like, yeah, see, I know what I'm talking about.
This is exciting.
Okay.
All right. So where do you want to go? Where do you want to go first?
Let's start off
right down the list.
Down the list. Sendejo.
All right. So Sendejo, 69 of 80.
What did I give him?
You had 58. Close.
Okay.
A little worse. With a 46.9.
What did I score him?
You scored him at a 63.
Okay. So I went a little higher on him. Okay. That's interesting.
Carl Joseph, very interesting. 64 of 80.
Okay.
For a 49.4.
What did I give him?
You gave him a 67.
I was close on that one.
So right out of the gate, if we're and I get it, PFF is just one of many rating systems.
Sure.
However, I mean, it holds weight.
It's generally accepted.
Exactly.
As a credible source.
Yep, I agree. So right out of the gate, the back end starting rotation,
pretty bad.
So
out of all of them that they've rated, we've got what, 60, 69, and 73. You said
69 and 64 of 80.
Okay, so not good.
No, not good.
No, I mean that either way, if I am diagnosing the Browns defense,
yep.
They don't pass the smell test.
No.
Because we're seeing it week over week. They're not passing the macro level test, which is how many points are being given up. And those points aren't being given up on the ground. Right? They're not like how we're scoring touchdowns where like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb will break a 24-yard run.
You're hitting the nail right on the head here.
They are passing. And they are throwing. Now, I will also say that I feel like, when Dallas is down 24 points, they're going to throw the ball, and we're going to get into a nickel and dime coverage. So it's going to, at least at the team level, it's going to open up opportunities for them to get those trashy type garbage numbers. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say, at least early on when Dak was getting those numbers, it might have been looked at as trash, but he got his team back in the damn game. Yeah, so, I mean, he was fighting for it. So he earned those numbers.
Yeah. And it wasn't until, not to go off the beaten path here, but we'll throw out a bonus here. It wasn't until Denzel sealed the deal. And ironically enough, Denzel Ward, out of 112 D-backs, is number 6. 76.5 overall. 73.1 in rush defense and 77.4 in coverage. So
I wouldn't have thought he would have been 6. I would have thought he would have been more like 16.
Yeah. So
but I think with that interception, it's jolting him up a little bit. That's interesting.
Do you want Taki Taki first, or do you want Malcolm Smith?
Let's do Malcolm, and then we'll go to Taki.
So it's funny, when we opened the show, we were talking about Malcolm Smith.
Yeah.
And he's stepped in, journeyman, done a real nice job.
Yep.
According to PFF, they think he's done a really good job as well as the 13th ranked linebacker by PFF.
that's like shocking to me. So then
Yep.
that again looks. So then I clearly am off in terms of that because I have to look back on his stats. Like I'm honestly jaw on the floor, shocked that he's the 13th ranked linebacker.
You know what the cool thing about that? So he's a 67.9, but the number that stood out to me, which made me smile a little bit, was the fact that his coverage grade is really the best part of his game at 73.3.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me because I would have been like, well, he's maybe from like a run stopping perspective because we're not letting anybody run on us.
Yeah.
It's all just medium and long passes that are killing us.
And what's funny, Mike, is then on the flip side, we'll just go ahead and parlay this into Taki. You go from 73.3 Malcolm Smith coverage rating to Taki at a 33.2. Now his run defense 70.6, and that's that's the best part of his game apparently according to these stats. He's a 47.4 overall. But talk about the tale of two tapes. I mean, you've got Smith at a 73.3, and it's apparent why Taki wound up back on the bench because he probably couldn't cover you and I wearing a knee brace.
Well, and then the other thing too is, I mean, even in the game yesterday, or not yesterday, on Sunday, where he went up to try to intercept the ball, got two damn hands on it, and it not only didn't knock it down, but it fell into the lap of CeeDee Lamb, and he caught the damn thing. So it's like those are the things that, as fans, we get really frustrated, but probably as a coaching staff, it's like you got to make those plays. You know, I know that. Even who else? We had another defensive back who dropped an interception as well.
Well, who do you call it? Got in the way of Mitchell would have had that pick.
He knocked it. Sendejo did a better job of defending an interception than he did about defending Cowboy receivers.
It's funny because I was yelling about that too, and then I'm like, all right, relax. Like he didn't realize that Mitchell was behind him and he was playing the ball. I get it, but I mean that's our luck.
But it's also spatial awareness. It's him. That actually is kind of a telltale sign that the guy has got somewhat tunnel vision about what's happening. Maybe he's focusing too much on the quarterback, focusing too much on the ball, and not focusing on where he needs to be. And that, Quincy was talking about this on his show too. He's like, the problem right now, more often than not, is it's not that we can't tackle, it's not that we can't defend, receivers. It's just that the guys aren't in the position where they're supposed to be to defend the guys. Whereas you've got Denzel is doing his job, which is mostly covering whomever the number one is. Yep. It's just unfortunate. It's weird because, like you said, Sendejo, he wasn't the plan, and T. Mitch, although he's done fine. I mean, he wasn't the plan either. The plan was Greedy Williams, who looks like he's probably getting a lot closer to coming back. But also Greedy's got to be able. Greedy's a guy that teams can pick on, and they did pick on him last year. Whereas Greedy against the run, very, very good, if not one of the best. Greedy against the short pass, not bad. Greedy against middle and deep passes, there's a risk with that, and hopefully he got better. Denzel, I got no problem with. Now, let me ask you this.
Yep.
In their prime, because we've got Denzel, who arguably is, I would say, he's not quite in his prime yet. I think he's getting there, and he's also had the injuries and stuff, so he's not quite there. But who would you rather have at this point in their career, Denzel Ward or Joe Hayden?
I'll be honest, I was never a big Joe Hayden fan.
Okay.
I felt like, and again, I never cared to go back and look at his numbers when he was with us, what have you. But I always felt that more times than not, I would be yelling at the TV because I felt like we were paying him so much and he was supposed to be the number one guy. And I felt like he couldn't cover my grandmother, who's been dead for 20 plus years. God rest her soul, grandma. But so that's
he was frustrating at times.
He really was. I'd go Denzel all day.
Okay.
With Joe Hayden, is Joe Hayden a good corner? Absolutely. do I think that he was worthy of, what did we pick him that year? Top 10, right? 7 or
Yeah,
whatever
he
it
was
was.
he was a he was a he was a very high pick. Joe Hayden. I'm gonna look it up now. I want to say
And look,
we got him at like 5 or 6.
and let me and take a peek at who went shortly
Seventh. He
after
was
him.
7.
It was, wow, I was dead on that. Go
There you
figure.
go. Yeah. So who was picked right before that?
How about
We
right after?
had. All right. So it went. This is an interesting draft. Sam Bradford goes number 1 to the Rams,
That was
and
that year.
Dominic
Yep.
Sue goes to Detroit number 2. Tampa Bay gets Gerald McCoy. God, all of these guys. Other than Bradford, arguably had some good years. Just couldn't stay healthy. Redskins took Trent Williams.
Wow.
Kansas City Chiefs get Eric Berry. Seattle Seahawks get the offensive tackle Russell Okung.
Yep.
Cleveland Browns take Joe Hayden, Pro Bowl. So he was a Pro Bowl guy. He's one of the few draft picks that actually worked out between pre Dorsey and 1999. Raiders busted with linebacker Rolando McCain.
Oh yeah, I remember
Then
him.
then the Bills got C.J. Spiller. Remember him?
Yep.
A couple other busts. San Diego Chargers took Ryan Matthews, running back, interesting guy. Earl Thomas goes 14. Jason Pierre-Paul goes 15. That was a really controversial pick, with Jason Pierre-Paul being like, look, the guy's played like 1 year of football. He just has all the measurables. He was like Myles Garrett measurables, but like with no production or like experience.
Right.
And he still became like a Pro Bowl stud.
Yeah.
Mike Pouncey went in that draft. Demaryius Thomas, Des Bryant,
That's right. Dez went late.
Devin McCourty, Dexter, round two. Dexter McCluster. We took T.J. Ward. That actually worked out pretty well for us for a while.
He's solid.
Gronk, round 2. That's crazy.
That's
Golden Tate, round 2. He's still playing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was an interesting draft. So, I mean, Joe Hayden's still playing. Here's my take on Joe Hayden. He was like the first defensive back that we had since like
Minifield and Dixon.
I would at least say like Eric Turner, right?
Yeah,
that I would say is like a guy you could get excited about, and somebody that we could really lock things down. We just never we never gave him, his Greedy Williams. We never gave him his other side guy, and he got hurt. He
did get Sheldon Brown for a couple years, didn't he?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I could have sworn he was on the other side for a little bit.
I have to go back to those seats. But I mean, it wasn't anybody who was like.
But yeah, it was nobody.
Nobody close. There was no A and A minus guy, right?
Like we're hoping Denzel and Greedy will be.
Yeah, and I think there's still the verdict's out about Greedy. We'll see. I mean, it's not like we invested a 7th overall pick in Greedy,
right?
Like
I'm still curious though, and I bet you are too. He hurt the shoulder. There really wasn't much conversation about it. Mum was the word. And here we are going into week 5.
Yep.
He has interviews. Hey, I feel good. The coaches are going to make the decision, whatever. I mean, we don't even get like game day out. Like that dude is like ruled out on Thursday.
Yeah.
So what's going on? Is it something worse?
I mean,
he's what could he have possibly done to that shoulder? I mean, didn't that happen in training camp? That was the same day, literally, or the day after that Mac Wilson got hurt. I think it might have been the same day, or it was the same day as Delpit.
Yeah, because it was like back to back. It was like and then
Greedy was sort of it was like it was Wilson, Delpit, and Greedy. Greedy was like one of those afterthoughts that
because we were like, it can't be that bad. I mean, it's a shoulder injury. It's not like he's a quarterback. It's not like he's a freaking throwing arm, right?
Yep, because that was sort of like the backstory, and rightfully so, because we lost our first round draft pick to an Achilles, but it was like Delpit went down with an Achilles. He was carted off, and by the way,
Greedy Williams too.
Greedy hurt his shoulder in a drill, and that's all you heard about it. We don't.
So, and
Do we
and
even know what the injury is? We don't even
no,
know. They
we
never
don't.
said it.
And that's the thing too. It's like, um, David Evan Smith is saying that shoulder was a lot worse than they let on. My guess is a torn rotator or an AC or even a broken collarbone. Okay, because like really, what are the shoulder injuries? The rotator cuff, they're broken bone, or they're a separated shoulder. Separated shoulders pop in, pop back out. Unless you do some damage within that.
Something with the ligaments in there.
Yeah, you can just pop it back in, and you're like, I'm good to go.
I'm good.
You know, maybe take a Vicodin or shoot it up with some cortisone. You can play.
Little Mel Gibson.
But if it's a broken bone, you just pop it back in, just slam it against the wall.
Riggs.
But you can typically come back from a shoulder, and I don't know. I mean, who knows? Like, and Njoku keeps getting hurt, and they're like these bullshit injuries, right? There's this like, oh, it's the wrist again or something. You know,
he's back this week.
We'll see. I mean, because Harrison Bryant is playing good, and he's blocking, and he's catching the ball. And then you got you got this guy who the new regime comes in, drafts, who, by the way, was, he got the award for the best tight end in college football.
Yeah.
It just happened to come out of FAU, which most people don't know about. I know a lot about FAU. Used to be right in my backyard when I lived in South Florida. So I mean, they have a decent like tier 2 program. Often overlooked. Like you got Florida, you got obviously Miami, Florida State, and University of Florida, and then you got this like weird tier 2, which is like UCF, who's probably the top of that, scratching into the tier 1. Then you get University of South Florida, and you got FAU.
Yeah.
Right? So like they're in there. I think Lane Kiffin's still coaching down there. Like that freaking wacko.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
but either way, back to Harrison Bryant. That guy has proved that guy's an NFL player.
Oh yeah.
Right. Then you got Hooper, who's finally caught a touchdown, very quietly caught a touchdown this week, right? So I think we're looking. I mean, it doesn't hurt to actually have depth at the tight end position because we do go 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
Right. And Carlson with the freaking 2-point conversion grab. Good on Carlson. He's getting in the mix there. He's trying to make. He's like, I got a 2-point conversion. What does Njoku got? Yeah. But he did catch the touchdown. But
I'll tell you what, even though it was short lived, for the little bit of time that Njoku was playing, he had a nice PFF score.
Yeah, I think David Njoku, if he could have stayed healthy last year, I think we would have. I think he would have been the difference between at least one game won or lost. Like I think he's like actually could be a difference maker for us, and it's unfortunate because I think everybody's kind of like. We've seen it with Njoku, now, and we've seen the injuries, and we're kind of like, all right, we're good.
Yeah.
Well, we have 2 other very productive, and at least, I mean, Hooper could be at the same level as Njoku. Harrison Bryant, we'll see what happens with him. And Carlson's a fine blocking, has okay hands guy, big enough guy that he can be a third. How many do we need, right?
Right.
But I think he's one of those guys who's going to get lost in the shuffle. That dude is a specimen, though. I mean, like when it comes to like how just ripped and in shape, and like that dude has got he's got the size, he's got the speed. The weird thing about Njoku, which I don't know if you ever kind of notice this, when he catches the ball, he doesn't like pop his hand. He catches the ball with like his arms. Like he like grabs the ball like this, and it's like he's flopping his hands out there to catch the ball. It's like just
little Michael Irvin style.
Catch the ball with your hand. The ball, it's even set up so the tip of the ball comes right there. Just catch it.
Now speaking of tight ends. Not I don't want you to lose your train of thought right there.
Mm-hmm. No, it's okay.
So Njoku's coming back, right?
Right.
So I think you can't mess with what's going on right now. So I think when it's a 2 tight end set, I think that you're going to see what we've been seeing with Hooper and Bryant. I think when we'll see him is when they try and throw 3 of them on the field and get that mismatch. But then I also wonder, with Hodge now going on the IR with his hamstring, so he's down for at least 3 weeks. We don't know what we're going to get with Higgins. We it's easy for us as fans to go back to Baker's rookie year, Rashard Higgins.
Yeah.
and again, we might never see that again. But I'm hoping to see maybe some signs of that. But anyway, regardless, you wonder now is, will they try and fit Njoku into that type of role, getting getting the three tight ends out on the field at the same time,
Well, I
as
think
opposed to maybe where they would have went with, the two and Hodge.
I think you made a good point. I mean, he does create a matchup issue when you got three tight ends out there because you got to throw. You're not going to throw cornerbacks on him because they're just going to outsize him, and you're not going to really be able to cover him that well with linebackers that aren't super athlete linebackers, right? And honestly, who has three like stud linebackers anymore? Like it's not even that high a priority position that you would even invest that much in stud linebackers to be able to. So it creates a mismatch problem, or at the very least, if you're going to have somebody who's going to mark them really close, you're going to have the size advantage with Njoku. However, I would be surprised if that's the direction we go. I think what we're going to see more of is DPJ, and the reason why, obviously he's going to be out there. Because, and I got to tell you, I was very happy to see him back there catching kicks and punts. I feel.
Now, do you think that he let that kickoff go because he thought it was going to go in the end zone, or do you think he had a
I just think it was a rookie move.
Yeah.
Metcalf did that once when he was a rookie too.
Yeah.
Metcalf had one where it was a punt, and this is back before they changed the rule. But he caught a punt and kneeled it. And he sat there and kneeled the punt, and the announcer's like, "You can't kneel." And so that was before it was like they had the rule where like if you give yourself up, then they'll blow the whistle. So he just sat there kneeling with the ball in his hand, and the freaking whole team was coming barreling down on him. I'm not sure if he fumbled it or not, but I specifically remember that. So I think it was a rookie move, and he got away with it. And my dad actually brought that up in the postgame. He was like, "Can you imagine if he would have?" If that didn't cross the plane, if it just landed on the one, they would have had it there, and we probably lose that game.
Yeah, that would have been an old Browns moment.
And dude, that was it's funny because we've got Sabril Apparel, and this is probably a good opportunity for me to talk about some of the sponsors here quickly. But Sabril Apparel, I was talking to her in in the Twitter DMs just about like some of the giveaway stuff. I'm not just like DMing random chicks. So we're talking, and she's like, "What do you think about the game?" And I was like, "Well, I think it's going to be close," which it was, and I think that it's going to be a shootout, and I think that it's going to come down to whoever gets the breaks, and we got all of them. This luck, this is a new stat that I think a lot of people aren't taking into consideration with this 3-1 team. They're giving a lot of credit to Stefanski and to OBJ and our running and our offensive line, and everything's going great, and just raining sunshine and rainbows. But the reality is we're getting very, very lucky where with the DPJ kickoff return, the 2-point conversion, right? Yeah. But we are also executing, so we're making a little bit of our own luck. So it's not like, how many games did we lose in the Hugh Jackson, Freddie Kitchen era and the Greg Williams era that was within 3 points because we couldn't execute a field goal? We're making our kicks. We are executing them.
I tell me, you're watching the game on Sunday, and now and I don't want to jinx anything, but I looked over at my wife last week and said, I don't even understand this life. Like not having to worry about an extra point or, a guy lines up for a 35-yard field goal and you're like,
probably not going to make it.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like, talk about a whole new world. I mean, we should play the song in the background, but I mean,
we'll see how long that lasts. Cause you look at Parkey's career averages.
I know it's coming.
Right. There's going to be a point where, and you know what? It's funny because he had made so many kicks and extra points and everything. And I was like, oh, it's going to be, an extra point. And then I stand up to go get another drink. I stand up, turn around to walk out the door. Second I walk out the door, my wife goes, "Oh my God, I got it blocked." So I turn back around looking at
I forgot. Yes, that was the 2-point conversion.
The 2-point conversion. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this isn't good because if they would have picked it up, they could have ran it down and got 2 points off of that.
Yep.
But meanwhile, again, the luck, the break that went our way, it not only because we couldn't have advanced it. So if we would have got it on the 1 yard line, we can't advance it. It was because we downed it in the end zone, by default, they had to give us 2 points. So like there's that, right? Then there's Myles Garrett not only getting the sacks, but stripping the quarterback. And to the point where not when he was pushing the ball forward, as the ball was coming up, so he taps it out of hand. Then it's another clutch situation. They run the ball. Ezekiel Elliott busts a 20-yard run and lands on Taki's head, and just enough to get to jar the ball. It's just like, and then we're executing.
Yeah.
And we're turning them into not just points, right? Because you remember the 2007 season with Derek Anderson, where we were just like, holy shit!
God,
look at all these.
Forever ago.
It was points and points and points, and every time we get in the red zone, you get Kellen Winslow catching a pass, or Braylon Edwards catching. Like, you had touchdowns, or Jamal Lewis. Everybody was scoring, and that I was like, ooh, this is what NFL football is supposed to be, and this is the first year that we're executing on that level, right?
Isn't it funny that, bringing up the 2017, it's so weird, like, to think back to that, because, and you just touched upon
13 years ago.
Yeah, and what's crazy is you can remember like it was yesterday watching that team and thinking to yourself, oh my God, like we're here. We have the nucleus, we have a team, and now
two young quarterbacks. Like, which one are we going with?
Maybe we'll have some ups and downs here and there, but we've got over the hump. Like, we're a real NFL team.
The talent level was really B+ and above in a lot of cases, right? Romeo, who's now the coach of the Texans,
the oldest coach, 73, 4, whatever it is, something like that. He's
dude, 74. God bless his heart, man. I mean, that dude's still walking around. It's a miracle if you look at him. But yeah, that was a crazy season. My dad and I watched. We were both living in South Florida at the time. So it was before I moved up here to Orlando. So we watched every game together that year. And it was just, we won 10 games. Yeah. And it's funny because I was just thinking about that. I was dropping off the kids. I was like,
Buffalo game.
Oh, yeah. All those. I mean, the Cincinnati game at the end. Damn it.
Yeah, that's right.
It was, but, for all these, the last couple of years, at least specifically, how, and you and I have talked about it, like how good it feels the next day, and it carries you through the week about how we won a game.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if
I drank out of that mug 3 weeks in a row. I can't even believe it.
And by the way, I bought the mug.
I
bought it. So I bought 2 of them. I'm gonna give one it was my dad's birthday, and he's gonna be here on Friday, so I'm gonna give him one of the mug. I bought him a whole bunch of Browns crap. So we're gonna have that victory mug, man. But yeah, so we went back. I think back to that season, and we won. That means 10 weeks. We got 10 weeks of happiness.
Yeah.
Right. So far this year,
it's
not
funny
only
when you put it that way,
we have 3 weeks.
We have 3 weeks of happiness.
How many happiness weeks do you get in an NFL season?
I like this. We're going with this from now on. Happiness weeks.
It's another happiness week. 3 in a row.
In a row.
Yeah.
In a row.
20.
I keep pulling that mug out of the cabinet. I feel like I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, I actually have to go back to calculate because the first game was a Thursday night game. So we had a Thursday night game and then 2 Sundays. So 14, 15, 16, 17 days of happiness. Right? And if you think about it, how many seasons have we gone where we only won like 3 games? So you only get 20 happy days in the whole calendar year. So we got so far we're going on 3 weeks of happiness, and it could potentially continue here with the Colts coming up, who are 3-1, and they've got a pretty good defense, but they haven't run into an offense that's been anywhere near Cleveland Browns. And arguably, we have the best offense in the league. Arguably, point wise, right? So production, we are producing. We haven't really run into so we've run it. I think the Cowboys are an okay team. Don't get me wrong. I think the Cowboys are like they're having a weird start.
But you know what too is that, and it's angered me all week because this whole when the Cowboys and the Seahawks played and the Seahawks pulled it out there at the end or whatever, it was the Cowboys weren't a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
But hell, we go down there and we stick it to them, and now all of a sudden the Cowboys suck. But the long and the short of it is the fact that a Cleveland Browns team post 1999 could go to Arlington
Yeah.
and stomp the Cowboys. And I
Lay
know
it
they
to
came
'em.
back, but we stomped the Cowboys in Jerry's world.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to be said about that.
You know, it's with all the stuff going around that surrounded it too with the players, like Myles Garrett going back, Baker Mayfield going back to
Yeah.
Texas. You had OBJ going back to the South, right? Where
Yep.
he's played a lot of big games. He talked about that, played a lot of big games here, first game and a whole bunch of stuff. And then, and also, I mean, OBJ is the guy. He's a star, so he wants to perform on the star stage, which happens to be
Yep.
that field. So you knew he was going to be up for it. We had a lot of excitement, which I'm hoping that we continue that momentum forward, and we don't go, well, now we're just coming back to Cleveland. We're going to play the Colts. Like, is anybody going to give a crap about this game? I hope the Browns continue to do that, because now we're dinged up. We are dinged up a little bit with the what I would say is probably like the heart and soul of the team, and Nick Chubb being out with that MCL sprain. Hopefully it's not as bad as we thought.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 weeks is really just a month and a half, guys. It's 6 weeks.
Is.
He's going to come back for the bye. It's almost like I just hope we don't revert back to, making Kareem Hunt then the only feature back. But look at, D'Ernest stepped up. D'Ernest
really
looked like an all-pro running back.
Yeah.
Led the damn team.
Some say a young Kamara.
Some say, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think he's quite as thick as him, but I mean, and he might not have. We haven't seen him being tested with like the passing game. Like Kamara's got, amazing hands as well. He's like, Kamara and Kareem Hunt are very similar. I think Kamara's a little thicker than Kareem Hunt, but I think Kareem Hunt's a little faster. So I mean,
we have to
it's a
give
Ken
shout out to
versus
John
Ryu.
Dorsey.
I would give a shot. I look at John Dorsey in terms of scouting talent. The man hit home run. Now he didn't. The problem is he didn't get on base enough to have those home runs turn into like a lot of runs. But when he had to hit the home run, he had a home run with Nick Chubb.
Yep.
He had a home run with. I'd say he had a home run with Baker. Because you got to think back. Nobody was taking Lamar Jackson 1 overall. Nobody was doing that. No freaking way.
It was wishy-washy on him.
And then it really came. I think it came down to Darnold, Baker, or Rosen. Those were the three like safe guys who you could have made the argument for first overall pick. Then you had Josh Allen. Whoever was like, dude, if the Browns take Josh Allen, this guy from Wyoming, who's just a big beast, but God knows if he can hit the wide side of a barn. This is going to be this is going to be a colossal F up when you've got Baker Mayfield, who just had like statistically one of the most amazing seasons. He's got the swagger, the attitude, the Heisman, the double walk on. He had the story, right?
Yeah.
And I think his rookie season before OBJ got there, he was the man.
He was.
Then OBJ shows up and it throws off the dynamic because now Jarvis is kind of like, I'm going to go with my boy and I'm going to go along with that. So now you just got to put up because, the real guys are running the show now. At least that's how it feels to me. I don't know.
No, I agree. It's like it took those 2 years of sacrifice to put some food in the cupboard, so to speak.
Right.
And did he have misses? Of course he did. All across. I mean, we're seeing a couple of them on the team right now. But for the most part, Nick Chubb is a gem. Denzel is a gem.
Oh yeah, because he came in the same year as what Baker did.
Yep. And then you look at Baker, right? And I've been hard on him this year. I'll admit it. We've talked.
You and I have had some private conversations that we shall not. Hopefully, we'll never get out there.
never see the light of day. But I think going back to that draft, I think that Josh Allen wound up in the right place. Because I think if Josh Allen would have had to go through 4 coaches and systems and whatever it's been,
no way that dude survives.
He would have. He doesn't have.
Lamar too.
Yeah, and I don't know
Same
the guy; I
thing.
could be totally off, but I just don't think that he has the makeup to be able to continuously change his footwork and his release point and so on and
And
so forth. But
deal with all those personalities. Like he doesn't have to
and
deal
all
with
the
the
personality,
personalities in Buffalo.
no, zero. And I think that if you look at Baker's, if you look at his progression thus far, as I get somehow hooked on my own headphone cord, but if you look at his progression thus far,
Mm.
it was rough for a little while. And I think that we're starting to see him get more comfortable in Kevin Stefanski's offense. I think we're seeing. I mean, there were plenty of plays the other night or other day rather where his footwork looked fabulous. He was selling fakes left and right. He looked great.
Mm-hmm.
The only knock really that I have on him still right now is I still feel like he doesn't step up in the pocket
I was
even
gonna
when
say
it's
that. You're gonna
not
say
muddy.
pocket awareness.
Yeah, like it's
100%.
there's been so many opportunities for him to step up and there was nothing muddy going on anywhere
Yeah.
and he bails and I think that
I think that
once
I
he
think that
figures that out,
I think that comes from last year, though. I think that comes from the
yeah,
gun shy
yeah,
about how bad that offensive line was
he was
last
running
year
for his
with
life.
G Rob and those guys. And now he really doesn't have the excuse, but he's conditioned, so he's got to break that conditioning, right? And I think that's going to take some time. But if you look at it, like freaking Wyatt Teller, man,
I'm looking at
holy
it. I'm looking,
crap, dude.
Mike. I'm looking at his. I'm literally staring at his PFF stuff,
Is he
and
the
it's
best
just
offensive lineman in the NFL?
number one out of 75. He literally
That's
has a
unbelievable.
94 overall, 77, essentially 76.9
Yeah.
run block, and a 93.7 pass block.
Oh, Virginia Tech guy.
And
I've known about Wyatt Teller for a long
you,
time.
I remember you were talking about him,
I'm
and then do we bring that back to Dorsey?
You
He
got
brought
to.
him in.
You
Yeah,
have to. I mean, you got to give him credit. The guy knew talent.
he did.
He knew
You can't. Yeah, I
he
agree
knew
with you.
talent, and but then again, you look at like Wyatt Teller last year, and then you look at Wyatt Teller this year, right? I mean, with Freddie Kitchen. I mean, Freddie just I think unfortunately did a number on some of these guys that they're gonna have to break free from it. Now, offensive line is not as cerebral a position as quarterback is, right? So Baker's gonna have to get through that. But I think I think there's a couple things going on with Baker, and this is all purely speculation. I don't have any like
Yep.
confirmation on this,
Yep.
but there's a couple things going on in his mind. Number one, he's got to feed his stars, right? And the better the running backs do, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb so far have made Baker's life a lot easier. So he doesn't have to force it. Plus, the run game opens up the pass game with the play action and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So he's got it in the back of his mind. I got to feed OBJ, or that dude's not going to be cool, and it's going to be a locker room issue, and that body language, all of that gets fed. Whereas I said in my post game tweet, one of my observations was it looked like they were having fun, right? They were smiling, they were happy. The second that OBJ caught that touchdown from Jarvis Landry, his boy, it
Yep.
was like, okay, it was like I think the weight of the season had finally fallen off. Guys, we're gonna have a good time because no matter what, that is another highlight for the OBJ career highlight film,
Yep.
which he hasn't had a whole lot since he's been in Cleveland. Not a lot of them, and he just had a monster one. So there's that. So Baker's got to do that. The other thing too that we all got to keep in mind, and Colin Cowherd brought this up. For all I know, he likes to bash Baker a lot, but I think you got to think about this. He's not a Stefanski guy, right? He's not a Bear. He wasn't drafted by Barry. I don't know where Dave Podesta stood in the whole Baker thing, right? We don't know where that came into play. Dave Podesta is not a talent evaluator, though. He's a numbers guy. So I don't know if he falls in where he falls in a play. But from Barry and for Stefanski, he's not their guy. And Stefanski then brings in his guy to be the backup quarterback in Case Keenum, right? So, Baker's got to be sitting there going, hey, look, I mean, I got all these commercials. I got all this, hype. The NFL obviously wants me to be a star. Like I got to live up to this, and then I also got to feed these egos. Um, and I'm coming off of he's like the only quarterback in NFL history who's gone for like in 3 years had 4 head coaches. So I think there's just a lot going on in Baker's mind, and the more that we win, the more that the running works, the more that OBJ gets involved with, reverses and just can't get him the freaking. We just proved that we need to get that man the football, and he'll figure out a way to do something with it. Right. So that's my soapbox about.
Yeah, no,
about
and all valid points, and I'm going to go elaborate on that. Couple things. First, sticking with Baker, and then we'll take his progress with what I was going to say about the offensive line. But if you take, I don't know if you saw it, but on Sirius on Pat Kerwin's show, he had Stefanski on. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
And he's talking about Chubb, and it's going to be tough to replace a guy like that, but he's confident in Hunt and obviously D'Ernest. But when Kerwin asked him about Baker, he said he's done everything we've asked him to do, and now you're kind of seeing it pay off. So I felt that he didn't have to say that if he didn't mean it, because as you just pointed, or I should say alluded to a few seconds ago, they don't know Baker anything. He's from the old regime. So if they didn't think he was going to work, they don't have to talk him up, and they could.
But it also sounded like that was a very business answer that he gave, right? That's an answer that's like I don't know about what in your job, but like in my job, if you're on like what they call a plan. Right. That's when they're looking at you and they're saying you need to achieve these things, and we need to see this activity. We need to see this sort of there's things that you're doing.
So you got Baker on a disciplinary action plan right now.
I don't know if disciplinary.
Are you feeling that?
I just feel like that was a very business-like answer. Like we have asked him to do things, and he has done all the things we asked, so I can't complain about the things we asked him to do. Whatever that means. Maybe it's tape, maybe it's working on his footwork, maybe it's the command of the offense or whatever. Who knows? Because it's a new offense. So it didn't seem like who's another young like Josh Allen. Like when Dable would talk about Josh, like this guy is freaking awesome and like blah blah blah. Just like I didn't feel personal love in that answer. I felt it's a business answer that he provided.
Dable's had Allen for what, 3 years?
Yeah.
So they're sort of like
jiving.
They've been dating for a little while.
And Dable's going to ride this to a head coaching position.
They're
probably
going out for dinner, and they're going out for drinks, face mask included, of course. But
right, of course.
Where, to me, when I hear something like that, for me, I think, all right, so he's getting it. That's what I'm getting out of that. And he's running his offense well, and he's learning it, and he feels like he's grasping it, which means then if he is on a plan, right, so far so good. But it would behoove Baker then, now I'm going to get to my next point, we'll see how this parlays in, that he should do the little things, and he is. But when I say the other little thing, I'm talking about making that next step up into that pocket that these guys are creating. When I say these guys, I'm talking about Wyatt Teller, number 1 rated guard. Jack Conklin, number 6 rated tackle. Joel Bitonio, number 9th ranked guard.
Wow.
I skipped over Treader, the number 2 ranked center. And then Wills is a rookie. He's the 47th, but that's okay. His run block his pass block 75.7. The run block's 58.3. But man, what a solid bunch of 4 other guys to be playing next to, getting broken in. So point being, Baker's not going to have a better line than this, than to get over whatever it is he's getting
That's
over
true.
and stepping up in the pocket. And
I
yeah,
I was just gonna say I think this is the best offensive line the Browns have ever had.
I,
Or at
I,
least, no, I wouldn't say ever.
in the
Right? Because
modern era,
in the modern era, because in the '80s we had Hall of Fame.
yeah,
We had Hall of Fame. Offensive line, and then Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas is just how underutilized that guy was. In terms of like what we had with Joe Thomas to not be able to
just
match.
waste.
We had Mac for a while, Batonio when he was young,
Yep.
but like never a unit. Imagine if you took a young Joe Thomas or even just like any Joe Thomas, old Joe Thomas, right?
Right.
And make him the anchor on the left side. Not to say that Will's doing anything wrong, because he's not. But
Right.
imagine that offensive line, right? So
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I don't disagree with you at all that if you're going to get over any sort of Freddie Kitchens level stain conditioning, there's no excuses to not get over with these guys.
And and you would agree, Mike. Baker Mayfield's not Russell Wilson. If Baker Mayfield was going to be anybody, it would be Drew Brees. And Baker needs to figure out, like Drew Brees figured out,
Yep.
and it took a few years, but he needs to be able to figure out how to step up in the pocket and find a visual lane to see through his line and get the ball out. And I think if he can get to that point, I mean, the kid's got a gun. He could roll out and hit whoever all day long. He was having those accuracy problems early in the year, but I mean, Stefanski just said he's starting to do the little things that they ask him to, and now all of a sudden we're seeing it show up on Sundays and on a Thursday where the accuracy has gotten better and better. I mean, he threaded the needle to, I can't remember who, Hooper, I think it was, on the sideline.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jarvis.
Jarvis,
Remember
rather,
he hit him there.
Yep. So he's got game. There's no doubt about that. But if we want him to be the franchise guy that we hope he can be, and you make that Drew Brees comparison, he's got to figure out, like Drew did, how to step up, find the passing lane, and start hitting his guys. I think once he can get to that point, especially with the talent around him, I mean, sky should be the limit. I would think.
Well, I think there's a couple things with the Drew Brees comparison. I think it's fair, because you got the size, you've got similar play style to a degree. A lot, it wants to throw a lot, and then, but there's a couple things about Drew Brees that that have to go into the equation. One, he wasn't very good when he was on the Chargers. Go back to his Chargers stats. 5 years there. Really 4 years of starting, and his best one arguably was his last one. Then he hurt his shoulder, right? And then it was like, well, where does he go? Does he go to Miami? Does Miami take him, or does he go to the Saints? Whatever. Miami decides to invest in Dante Culpepper, and Drew Brees goes to Saints, and that was all she wrote. But if you look at Drew Brees, a couple things. Number one, took him 5 years in the league. Again, he didn't really play a whole lot his rookie year, but 5 years in the league to kind of start figuring it out.
Yeah.
The second thing is he had Sean Payton as a head coach. Right? Sean Payton is I mean, if Drew Brees retires and the Browns trade Baker Mayfield to the Saints in this fantasy world, right? Sean Payton's automatically going to make him a much better quarterback. Sean Payton was a quarterback. He understands that position. He's designed his offense around that. The third thing that I want to say about Drew Brees, if you look at Drew Brees, if you watch how he plays, and I've watched Drew Brees throughout the years, because oftentimes in fantasy leagues I like to get Drew Brees because he throws a lot, right? Yeah. So him and Aaron Rodgers, those guys just throw a lot of footballs, and that turns into fantasy points. So I like to get any Drew Brees on my team. So I watch his games. He does a couple things really, really well. One is when he's under center and drops back to pass, he's doing 5 and 7 step drops that are lightning quick.
Yeah, they are.
When he drops back, he's going back there with a mission, and it's like Lamar Jackson moving forward. Drew Brees can move backwards, right? So he opens up this. He makes this his height. He neutralizes that with as far back as he goes. Then he's got the arm strength to actually make up those 2 or 3 yards, difference where he needs to. And then on top of that, the most important thing is I've never in my entire life seen a more accurate quarterback than Drew. Drew Brees is the Greg Maddux of quarterback. He can put the ball wherever he wants. They actually did a 60 minutes interview with him one year, and I remember watching it, and I was like, this guy's insane. He just walks out into the field, and they were like, how accurate are you throwing? He's like, well, tell me what to hit. And they're like, hit the crossbar to the uprights from like 30 yards out. Boom, bing. It's like he's on Dude Perfect. Like just like nailing targets. You tell me where to throw the ball and I'll nail a target. And then meanwhile, you got Lamar Jackson in the skill challenge who can't, he's got wide receivers that are out throwing him for an accuracy. So, long story short, I think that the best thing that we can do as Browns fans is take a deep breath and go, look, I know we want to win right now, and I know we're dying to win right now. But the reality is we have a lot of young players that are coming into their prime, that are getting those reps, that are starting to get used to the speed of the game, and you're really starting to see the production. You're starting to see the Denzel and the Myles Garrett, right? You're starting to see those superstars come out, the guys we drafted to be. Baker's on that same path, but his trajectory was just kind of impacted a little bit more by the bad coaching that he's had so far, right? So in his 5th year, you're going to start seeing him consistently throwing over 30 touchdowns a year. But this year, you're probably going to get 27, 28, and you're probably going to get somewhere around 10 to 12 interceptions. But you're also going to see a playoff team. You're going to see us competing to be a playoff team. And this is the real test this weekend, because the Colts have a very good defense.
Yeah,
at least
good run defense.
And again, and that's another thing too. If they can neutralize a run defense and force Baker to pass, we're going to be in a little bit of a predicament. And then it'll be, can Baker make the plays, and can our wide receivers and tight ends and all that stuff make the plays? But I think Baker, we all just have to relax a little bit with it. And I know it's tough to be patient.
It's tough, but we're seeing it. We're seeing
you see glimpses.
It's coming to fruition slowly but surely.
Quincy had a good tweet that he showed the first 3 years of Favre, Roethlisberger, and Drew Brees, and they were all
I saw that.
well worse than Baker Mayfield, right, so far. And Baker arguably in a much more difficult situation than those guys walked into. But on the flip side, the haters are going to come out and be like, well, he didn't have all this talent, this world-class running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. So, but we're starting to see it though. Right, so this is the big. I think Baker's gonna have a good year. I don't know if it's gonna be a Pro Bowl type year. Maybe we'll see. I mean, but we just got to take a deep breath and chill a little bit on it, and just it's tough. I don't have that either. I have a temper when it comes to the game, and I get really upset. And obviously, you and I are very heavily invested, both from the content we produce, but also like literally in our wallet invested. And we want to see us win now, right? But we just got to chill for a second.
And and I agree, and I understand. Like, it's funny because I mean, a lot of the times too, and I mean it, but there's a lot of times, on Twitter or whatnot, like I'll just throw something out there just to get a rise out of people, because sometimes I enjoy that. But it's the kind of thing where if you look at where the organization is now, everything seems to be sound, and we all fought over
right?
It's very weird. We wanted McDaniels, and we or last year we all wanted Freddie, and we got Freddie, and that old saying of be careful what you wish for, it slapped us all right in the face. And now it seems like we've got players, we've got a front office, we've got a coach that's competent, that can put a plan together. And let's say Baker wasn't the guy, right? But he is a solid quarterback that, let's say for what we've seen in Cleveland, home and afar, we should be lucky to be able to, for the next 3 or 4 years, and I mean, of course, we all want to win a Super Bowl. I mean, that's the name of the game. But if for the next 3 or 4 years we were 9-7, 10-6, 10-6, 9, whatever, and Baker was managing the games or whatever, we'll take that, right? We'll take that because now we've got a foundation. So then at that point, you're actually a quality team. You're not turning pieces over. You're not turning the front office over. And then you get to the point where, if 4 years down the road, we're still a competitive team, but he's just not the answer, then okay. Then you're able to go out and get that guy and still have a nucleus and still have continuity throughout the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny because how many times have we used the number 3 tonight? 3-1, 3 of this, 3 of that.
Mhm.
And really the bottom line when you think about like the Hugh Jackson years, this man won 3 games. Kevin Stefanski,
2.5 years.
2.5 years, 3 games. I've gotten the drink out of my victory mug 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we got 3 wins in 2.5 years. Like that is just
what you're talking about, what you just described, and again, thinking about the future as well, it's the culture of the Browns is shifting.
yeah.
And when you have the news media is no longer ragging on the Browns or automatic L on the Browns when they go through it, they have to sit there and think and be like, look, I mean, it took bringing in this entire, truckload of talent in order to do it. But that's what we have to manage at this point, is manage all that talent, figure out ways to get them utilized. I think Stefanski's doing a really good job, at least after game one. I was concerned in game one because I was like, what did you not see in the tape last year that would tell you that Baker throwing 50 times or 40 times is going to win a game against Baltimore? That is not that's not the recipe to beat that team.
Yeah.
Right. But I think he did what he had to do. He's like, look, we're getting beat and we got to throw the ball. We can't run it anymore. Like we're playing against the Ravens and the clock. The other thing I think is really interesting is, again, to put the cherry on top of this point, it is about the culture of the organization, and that is
really
beginning to shift, right? And that it all comes from winning.
It really does.
Winning cures all, as they say. And although if you look at the game, and we could break it down over and over, but historically, the last 10 plus years, right? Really since that 2007 run, it has been games like this, like the last 3 weeks, where we get up and lose, or like Washington in the Washington game, where let's say we flipped the coin, and let's say they got up, 17-3 or whatever, and then we'd come back and in the end of the third quarter, it's 20-17, and then the sky would fall, and then they'd go on to beat us really bad, give us a glimmer of hope, and then we'd fall apart, and we'd sit there, and it was just enough to go, but we had a chance, but we really never did. And this team is different. This team is, we not only have a chance, but no, we're bringing in the closer now. We're bringing in Mariano Rivera, and we're closing this thing down.
Yeah, and to keep touching on that point, you look at the past 3 weeks, and you certainly could say, and nobody's going to take away the Cowboys in Arlington. I don't care if the Cowboys defense were all wearing red and just going like this. That is a tough game for anybody to go into Dallas, especially the way Dak's playing. I mean, the dude's got weapons on top of weapons.
Yeah.
And to go in there and be able to put 49 up and win, you then take the other two and, it was against the football team and it was against the Bengals.
Yeah.
But I guess what the media and some folks, I think what they miss is the fact that it's the Cleveland Browns, and it doesn't matter if they were playing a peewee team, we'd still find a way to lose,
right? Yeah,
or not even be competitive. But 3 weeks, talk about the level of competition all you want, but what I've seen in 3 weeks, especially after the stinker that was the Ravens game, is I see a coaching staff that is competent, that understands how to play to strengths, that can actually put game plans together,
Yeah.
and we're seeing an actual team on the field in as far as the personnel as well. So it's very easy for those type of people to discredit. But I think for those of us that are fans of the team and have been in it, so closely, you could sort of sense that this is something different. And it doesn't even matter. Let's say they went 8-8, and with this kind of talent, I think that would be criminal.
Yeah.
But let's say they did, but they're giving us the same effort that we're seeing right now and development. I think we're on the right track. I think
Man,
finally.
that's a tough thing to say. Yeah, I'm actually thinking about that 8-8. If that's the record at the end of this, I
And
don't
could you fault them though? No off season, no OTAs, no rookie minicamp,
know, but everybody had that, right?
new
Um,
system.
yeah, and I think that is what I think the excuse you can give them for the Baltimore game, 100%. Baltimore, same team, same coaches, same quarterback, same system. You add in one player here or there, take away one here and there. It's not gonna sink the ship. It's not gonna make or break anything. We were really rebuilding the foundation,
Yeah,
new language, new everything, new
that first
coaches,
week.
new
Yeah,
personalities. And whereas I think honestly, we have the talent, if not more talent than Baltimore does.
I would
But
agree with that.
they play to their strength. Harbaugh, what he's done with Lamar Jackson, transforming that offense from statuesque Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson, that is Hall of Fame level coaching, right? So that team is it's a different tier, right? But where we're going, and my dad actually just sent me a tweet saying that from the power rankings, we moved up 8 spots. We're now by ESPN's fictitious power ranking, whatever, which I've never really given a crap about, but it's more about like status.
Yeah,
We're
like
10.
yeah,
We're
we're like
top
10,
10.
11, and 13 between I think it's like NFL Network,
Yeah, right there.
CBS, and ESPN. Yeah,
But you got to be in the top 10 to 12 in order to be in consideration for championships.
yep.
Right? You're not going to be number 17 and end up winning the Super Bowl. The odds of that is just going to be astronomical. Everybody else is going to have to get hit by lightning. But if you're in the top 10 or so, a couple breaks here and there,
Yeah,
you can
you're
make
good.
your way there. And there have been teams, Seattle, when they won their first time, they weren't. I don't think they were looked at as a top contender. They earned it by
Yeah.
the trajectory. Dallas Cowboys in 1990, and as they continue to grow towards their Super Bowls, they earned it along the way. And I think that's where we are with the Browns. And this is something I'll admit. And when I'm actually reflecting upon reality, this is not a championship team that we have on this year.
Right. No.
This isn't a Super Bowl team this year. You can't look at us and compare us to Kansas City and
Unless
Baltimore.
the stars align somehow.
Right,
Yeah.
like the stars aligned when we went to Baltimore last year and really knocked them in the teeth.
Yep.
But we have to have that level of game
Yeah.
every game. And you know who does that? Kansas City does it.
Yep.
Right? So, and they might be the only team that does that. Maybe the old Patriots used to do that, where it was just you knew the Patriots were going to win just almost every week. They're going to win the damn game. But right now, that's Kansas City, and so they're number one, and everybody else is trying to get it. And they earned it. They won it last year, and they're still there. Baltimore, I'd say, is number 2.
And you just brought them up, and where I was going to go with this is you really hit the nail on the head. And so if you think about what I was saying in terms of building a quality program from the front office to the equipment manager,
Mm-hmm.
and being consistent and being able to build something, then you are able to do what a Baltimore Ravens did 3 years ago, where they they got all the pieces because they're consistent and the continuity has always been great since they got there.
Yep.
And you know, Joe Flacco, like you said, was a statue, and he was they had decided that they weren't going anywhere else anymore. And then you figure you got a team like that they can say, hey, you know what? We see something in that kid. Let's trade back into the round and snag him and see if he could be our quarterback in the future.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, it doesn't work, but it doesn't matter because they already have a solid squad. And who did they in the first round they picked who? Mark Andrews maybe, or I can't remember who he was their second pick of that round.
Yeah, so it might have been Mark Andrews.
Right? So
yeah, it had to have been because Baker that was the Baker's guy.
So I mean, at that point, you are such a good organization that you're just playing with house money at that point. If the pick doesn't work, so be it.
Yeah, you're not investing. If it does,
look what you got. Whereas that's something for us. I mean, and that's why we've been in the toilet for so long because I mean, how many times did we have 2 first-round draft picks? And we couldn't build anything anything.
We kept drafting the guys in the quarterbacks in the 20s too. You know, like the Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel. You know, those guys. And then, Colt McCoy was a 3rd-round pick.
Yep.
Kaiser was a 3rd. I think Kaiser was a 3rd as well.
Yeah, I think he was 3.
Yeah, so it's like we didn't get that top tier guy, and then we didn't have an Aaron Rodgers guy fall to us in the 20s.
Get the first pick, and it just happens to be a draft where there's no Andrew Luck type of caliber guy, or
there was Pat Mahomes there, but again, everybody would have killed us.
I was just talking about Baker's draft.
Okay, yeah, but I'm talking about the Myles draft. So when Myles Garrett, a guy who has the measurables through every measurable that you could do, every analytic that they had, he was number 1 in from like the history of the draft, and he plays a critical position, and it's a position that we didn't have somebody in. It was like, yeah, we don't have a quarterback, but you can't give up that guy. You can't give up a Hall of Fame guy.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine what a waste of talent? We how criminal it would have been if poor Pat Mahomes wound up in dysfunctional Cleveland at that time. We might not have ever seen the greatness that is
Pat Mahomes.
Mahomes.
I mean, you're right. It may be, but it also, God, it's like, we went through Hugh Jackson. And we all wanted Hugh Jackson to be successful. I was so excited when they announced they were like, Hugh Jackson, the guy from Cincinnati, he's in division. He knows the division. He's an offensive guy, right?
Remember he walked in the building, they had the people lined up on the stairs clapping.
Yeah, it was like it was a victory for us that we got Hugh Jackson.
We got Hugh Jackson.
Yeah. And then for it to go sideways so fast, and the I gotta watch the tape excuse. There's so much of it that it warned. So now let's think back to let's pretend this is Bizarro Land. We beat Baltimore game 1. Everybody thinks Stefanski could run for mayor and win, and then we lose the next 3 games to Cincinnati, Washington, and Dallas. What then?
Oh man!
I mean, think about that.
Then everything we talked about in the beginning.
But we beat Baltimore in Baltimore. Let me throw that. That's a conundrum, right? How do you even?
Look, I can't. You have me speechless, which is hard to do. But I guess then it just depends on those losses. Did we look like a team, or did we make Baker throw 60 times and neglected to run? Was there any type of progression?
I think you got. So if we're gonna flip all the cards, right? Then we let's say we beat Baltimore like 35-6, so we take care of them at home, and then we lose to Joe Burrow on Thursday. In the same way, you take the stats and you flip them. So we make Baker throw 61 times against Joe Burrow and lose, right? 35-30. And then the football team comes in and Baker has a bad game. Again, he's taking Dwayne Haskins stats, right?
Right.
So he's a bad game, and everybody's like, dude, that was bad. And then in game 4, we go to Dallas. They're beating the shit out of us. And then Baker throws for 500 yards and gets us within one freak, OBJ, let's call it CD Lamb, has a reverse and he goes for a touchdown. And we are that close to being 2-2. Like, and here's the deal. We've been 1-3 so many times that can happen in the NFL. The breaks. I will tell you though, if I can point to a couple data points that would lead me to believe that this is a legit 3-1 and not a fluke 3-1, is number one, we are executing on the parts of the game that we have to execute, which is special teams. Special teams we're executing. We're making those kicks. We didn't make the kicks to game 1. Got rid of that guy. Brought in a new kicker. He's making kicks. We're good. Those are the little things. They're momentum swings. When you remember the Buffalo game last year, we go down the field, we get all the way down there. Jarvis catches that amazing touchdown, and then we miss the extra point. And that just did it. That just deflated us. We're like, okay, we just got 2 field goals instead of that. So we're doing all those little things. We're also winning with turnovers. We're also scoring touchdowns off of turnovers, and just in general, it just it's nothing else. The sniff test. We look like a better team. The last point that I wanted to bring up is penalties. If you go watch the Jets game. Watch the Jets game the other day. It was the Browns. Yeah. It was the old Greg Williams Browns. Penalties, and not only penalty, but knucklehead penalties. Yeah. Personal foul penalties. Stuff. Yeah, it was Greg Williams defense, and with bad talent, but bad talent who also commits, unforced errors. But we're not committing penalties. We're executing on special teams for the most part, other than the first game of the season, some of the second game. But we're doing the little things you have to do. And to be honest, Stefanski said it when he came in. He goes, look, every team in the NFL should win 8 games. Like, you're set up. Right. It's the schedules are set up by design, so every team wins 8 games. So you should have 8 wins. It's just that, can you do the little things? Can you keep your head straight to get to 9, 10, and God have it 11 or plus? And those teams that get to those 11, 12, 13, 14, those are the teams that put that Baltimore game that we saw last year, and they execute like that every game. And we are not there yet. Our defense isn't there yet.
I look at the schedule with the talent we have, barring a bad injury, which thank God we dodged the bullet with Chubb. I mean,
yeah, and like a lot of reasons. It's not a season-ending surgery or career ender.
No.
And we have Kareem Hunt.
yeah. So I mean, I'll take 4 games and a bye until we have him back with Kareem Hunt. But I mean, if you look at the schedule. Mm-hmm. And you take next week, for example, okay. They have a solid run defense, but you could still wear them down as long as if Baker's got to pass a little bit more than usual, that he's on point. Phillip Rivers, I mean, he's like 2 buckets of paper mache shy of a statue. So
yeah, he ain't moving.
No, he's not moving. So, I mean, we should eat on the defensive line. Missing Ogunjobi is going to be tough. I don't know how long. I haven't seen anything yet. Have you?
No, that's actually a really good point.
I actually an oblique thing.
Yeah, I haven't.
That's all I know.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about that. Hopefully, that's something they can just give him the needle and he could just get through it.
I'm hoping that it's not the same thing that Vernon's been fighting, because he had an oblique, remember, and he's been in and out of the lineup.
This season's been so weird. You got actual bad injuries, and then you got a lot of like soft tissue bullshit injuries that are the nag, like the groin. I had a groin
Right.
injury when I was a kid, and for a season, a baseball season, and it just there's nothing you can't heal
Yeah, you
that.
can't. Yeah, you can't do anything.
You just have to wait like 3 to 6 months for it to go away. I remember the first day that I woke up and I didn't feel pain moving my leg, and I'm like, oh, this is I
Finally.
feel normal again. But it was awful, and I can't imagine playing at the type of like velocity that you have to play that running
Oh
back
yeah.
position with a groin injury. But again, I also didn't have the kind of medicine that these guys have either. But you know, not regardless. But I do want to make a point about your Philip Rivers comment.
Yeah.
This dude. So who do we play? We played so far. Lamar Jackson's the fastest, most nimble quarterback in the league, hands down. Couple
Yep.
close guys with maybe like Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, but like, dude, it's you got Lamar Jackson, and he's the fastest guy in the league, possibly in history, other than Michael Vick. Then you
Yep.
got, a very athletic Joe Burrow,
Yep.
right? A very athletic Joe Burrow, underappreciated for his athletic ability. He's a he's not, he's
Not a
not a
burner, but
yeah, he's not a burner, but he can run. Then you got Haskins, who's not a speedster either, but he's young,
yep.
and young guys can move, right? So he's still got some athletic ability. Although I don't know if Dwayne Haskins can necessarily make it, but nonetheless, he's not like Bledsoe, right?
Right.
Or old, you know, post Achilles Marino, right? He can
Right.
move a little bit. And then last week with Dak,
Yeah.
and Dak is obviously he's a throw first guy, but dude can run as well. He's Dak, I think, is more like shifty, nimble in the pocket, but we still were able to get to him. This is the first week that we got a guy who, if the pocket collapses, he's not running. He's not running for 12 yards. He's not running for that.
No.
This is a dude that Myles Garrett, he's going to go off on. Sheldon Richardson's going to get to him. Vernon, if he's healthy, is going to get to him. All of our defensive line. We might even get a linebacker sack. When was the last time we saw one of those, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Philip Rivers is, if you look at them, they put up 20 points against the Jags and lost. They put up 28 against the Vikings at home. Okay, the Vikings, I think, are mediocre, so whatever. It's fine. Then they put up 36 against the Jets. Congratulations.
Yeah.
19 against the Bears in Chicago. So this isn't anywhere near the type of, this isn't as dynamic an offense. But I think the thing is they do have a decent, and I say decent defense, but also untested. They gave up 27 points to the Jaguars. We just put up 49. We're putting up 30. We're going to put up another 30 points.
Oh,
It just
I
is
think so.
our defense going to give the Colts 30 plus points, and I don't see that happening because we aren't the Jets,
No.
right? And I think at this point moving forward, we can safely assume that we're gonna score. We're gonna be tickling 30 points every game.
You talk about groin injuries. Philip Rivers never had a groin injury, obviously, because he's got like 8 kids. What,
Yeah,
7
right.
kids? What is he?
It's funny they were
His
talking.
groin is well functioning.
The ref log and Big Play were talking about that. They're saying like somebody made a comment being like, you can't be like within a certain amount of people like for COVID reasons, and like, dude, Philip Rivers can't go anywhere, with his like 8 kids or whatever.
Yeah.
That dude is like, I mean, that's a dedication to the book.
Oh, yeah.
That's a Bible thumping dude. Thumping with a capital T.
And you know what? I mean, you got to give the guy credit because I mean, by league standards, I mean he's like a dinosaur, and he's still
How old is Philip?
producing. He was the same draft as Eli, so 38, right?
Philip Rivers, dude is, I think he's 39. Yeah, he's 38,
30.
but he's going to be 39. He is exactly a year.
Because
He's almost exactly 2 years younger than me.
Yeah, because he came out. That was the Roethlisberger year too, wasn't it? It was Eli, Rivers, and Ben.
Yeah, Ben and who just fell to. And interestingly, both
Like,
there were rumors that we were trying to move up, or we wanted Ben to fall to us in that draft, and there was also rumors that we were going to try to move up to get Pat Mahomes in the Myles Garrett draft. I
yep.
know that we had our eyes on those guys. So, but then the interesting thing about Philip Rivers' career, he shows up in, um, he shows up in San Diego, right?
Yep.
After they had Drew Brees, they already had Drew Brees, but Drew Brees again was like Lamar Jackson, he was first round pick in the second round, right? Or something very close to that. So he
Super
wasn't
close to
a
that.
they didn't invest like a high first round draft in him. He was an experiment to see if they could make him happen, right? And then they didn't see the New Orleans. If they would have seen the New Orleans Drew Brees, they never would have gone with Philip Rivers. Philip Rivers would have gone somewhere else. But yeah, that dude, he's produced a lot of offspring. And you know what, dude? If I was, you know, a zillionaire like this guy, and my wife was like, "Let's just keep pumping them out." Man, I got three. Why not? Let's go. But that's a lot of births. Though. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's it's a lot to ask on your lady's body. You know.
Public service announcement.
Phil,
To your
God
point,
bless her heart, though.
I looked it up. Pick 32, round two.
Pick 32 round two was who? Breeze?
Breeze. Yep.
32? Yeah, so. Yeah,
And
you're
that
right.
was Lamar was 32, wasn't he? But that was back in the first round.
Back in yeah, the first round
Yeah.
32. Yeah, but then you got God, what a crazy draft that was, because the Chargers ended up getting LaDainian Tomlinson and Drew Brees in the same, almost like us getting well, I guess like
Baker and Chubb.
Baker and Chubb.
If
Baker
they,
we took first overall. If
yeah.
we had to go back on it, it might have looked the other way. We might have had to take Chubb first overall, and then Baker, in the second round. Maybe Baker probably would have lasted. Like, based off of what we've seen so far, it would have been the opposite.
You know what? Speaking of running backs, and this is totally not even in the Browns ballpark, but it angered me when it happened. And my brother is a Giants fan, and we've had conversation or I should say, upon conversation about this, and he's starting to see it now. But when the Giants took Barkley third, I thought, you are wasting this dude's talent and his career, because by the time you're able to compete by running back standards and age, he's going to be gone. And we didn't even get there before the poor guy tore an ACL.
Yeah, and
Just a waste.
ACL. I've known people. I've had friends who've had ACL injuries,
I've
and
had one, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it is a very difficult. I mean,
It's not fun.
It's
I mean,
a
it's
very
easier
difficult.
now, but
Yeah, but it's not like they got Tommy John surgery for it. I mean, like
no,
you're gonna have
yeah.
to go through therapy. You're gonna have that.
Oh, yeah.
You
Oh,
got
it's
the knee
horrible.
brace. You got all that kind of stuff that you got to deal with it. And the other thing too is it it's easy to gain weight when you have an injury like that where you can't move,
You're
because
telling me
you can't keep your metabolism and your heart rate up without using your leg. It's difficult to do that, right?
yeah.
So that's gonna be that's a really good. I actually never thought about that. How they're like, why would you invest in a running back unless they thought he was going to be like the next O.J. Simpson or something, which he probably is, right? I mean, I haven't seen a running back who can do what Saquon Barkley can do since Bo Jackson.
except run between the tackles. A little
Well,
suspect.
yeah. I mean, but does he have to? I mean, like, if he had to, probably would. But he's not like a Nick. I mean, Nick Chubb is like
He's doing the
he's a
do it all.
bruiser. Yeah, he's a bruiser. He can do
And
it
he
all.
started
And he
catching
can catch
the
the
ball out
ball.
of the backfield. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He
I
actually
agree.
has better hands than what people will give him credit for. But Saquon, I agree. It's like, look, if I'm the Giants, it's like the Browns, right? It's like we have bad years, and you're up really high in the draft, and you
Like Trent
can't
Richardson.
pass on Saquon Barkley, right? The Jets were the one who I honestly think you could place the most blame on about getting a bust in the draft with Sam Darnold. Right? They were the, because they didn't have the option to get Baker. We took him off the street. So then you get that everybody was looking at like, this quarterback class is amazing. Look at all these. You got all these guys, and Lamar Jackson was always the afterthought. They're like, and Lamar Jackson happens to be in here too, but nobody was talking about him in the top 10.
And the crazy thing though is like when you, and I get it why he was upset, but I mean if you go back to his combine, it was atrocious. I remember going through those quarterback drills, throwing deep balls, and I mean, it looked like a clay pigeon being shot out of the machine. I mean, it was
he's got terrible mechanics. I mean, he has like Terrell Pryor. He makes him look like look like he's Marino. I mean, his like weird sidearm shot putting style. I mean, his mechanics are terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, Phillip Rivers has terrible mechanics as well, but he's made it work with his pushing the ball type, arm. But Lamar Jackson, man, he'd never. But that's the thing, he never had to develop an arm because he always relied on. He was the best athlete by a mile on every field he ever stepped foot on, from the time he was born until the time he was in the NFL. Right, a little different with a guy like Michael Vick, because Vick had the arm.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Vick had a cannon of an arm. It was a lot more accurate than people gave him credit for. It was just teams had shitty wide receivers. Yeah. But you look at the team, like when we had Andre Davis and Ricky Hall and those guys, those burners on the Virginia Tech team, he could hit them. So, but yeah, that was a weird draft.
I want to touch on this with you real quick.
Yeah.
We were talking about ACL injuries and it's tough to come back, even though, in today's modern medicine, these guys come back and they're, I mean, look at Chubb, for example. But what I've had a hard time with is the Delpit injury. Because if you look at the statistics of somebody coming back from an Achilles to be as good as they were before, it's not a positive outcome by any stretch of the amount. Now, I hope that he proves those statistics wrong, and he's even better than advertised. But
this is also his
of all things.
It was his second injury, because he had that high ankle sprain in college. Right, it's right there on his. I mean, I was like, I remember him being hurt as well, which they were blaming like his senior season, how he went backwards in terms of production. They blame, and again, dude, you have high ankle sprains are almost like a broken leg.
Oh,
I mean, it's as bad as it can get, because it's almost like a broken leg, right? So, and he's out there not only dealing with the pain, but not being able to run and plant, like Myles Garrett had that high ankle sprain.
Yeah.
Cost him like a quarter of the year, and he probably should have sat out longer. He wasn't the same Myles Garrett with a high ankle sprain. So then he ruptures the Achilles. Now there are different levels of rupture in Achilles. I've seen Achilles where it snaps and the Achilles and your whole calf just rolls up into your calf, and they got to stretch it back out and tie it down with screws and stuff. So I've seen that sort of Achilles. But then there's also like a torn. So I don't know what ruptured means. If is ruptured mean snapped and gone, or does it mean repairable, keeping it intact?
I just know that when he did it, you could see that calf
tweak. Okay, then it's gone. Yeah, so and
I think he might have. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. You're right, man. That could be a problem, and that's like, we'll see what happens with him. But it's not like we invested a top 10 pick in him. Top 10 picks in the NFL are guys that they have to work out. If you want to be productive, unless your team is already there and you just happen to have somebody retire, and you like the Colts. Remember the Colts when they had Andrew Luck? They're like, we have the foundation. We just didn't have anybody at quarterback, and then we just replaced it with Andrew Luck, and boom, we're right back in the playoffs. Yeah. Right, or the Steelers when they got Roethlisberger. And Roethlisberger in the beginning, again, I will make this point, he was a game manager, and he never Ben Roethlisberger, other than a couple seasons with Hines Ward and a couple seasons with Brown, he wasn't lighting it up. Like, nobody was drafting Ben Roethlisberger in fantasy leagues because he was just a mediocre, 230 yards, 1 touchdown guy, 2 touchdowns occasionally.
That's a very good point.
And Baker is being asked to. Quincy made this point on his show. He's being asked to do that. So Kevin Stefanski, with that big Ivy League brain, figured out that, look, dude, we can't. I'm not putting the legacy of my first coach after all these years as an assistant. I'm not banking on this guy throwing the ball, this young quarterback throwing the ball 30 plus times. Statistically, we could see it's not working. Freddie, unfortunately, had to create that trend line because Freddie never figured it out. And we're all sitting there last year like, dude, I mean, just don't throw as much. You kind of have Nick Chubb over here.
I think we could have drew plays in the sand that would have worked better than what he was doing.
Oh, well, here's another good question for you. How do you feel so far? Because I know this was a question going into the season. How are we feeling about Stefanski taking over the responsibility of coaching and leading the team, but also then the play calling, right? How are you feeling about Stefanski? Are you feeling anything about it? Because honestly, like, not feeling anything is really good. Yeah. But I mean, how are you feeling so far?
Yeah, I don't feel anything. I mean, you and I think that's just it with him. He's smart. And he's so even keel that, like, just seeing him on the side, like, you know what he reminds me of?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Stefanski is like the Jimmy Johnson of the NFL. And when I say Jimmy Johnson, not Jimmy, Jimmy,
the driver,
the driver,
the driver.
Just right. I mean, and don't get me wrong, the guy's a 7-time champion, but just the demeanor. That's what Kevin Stefanski reminds me of. Just
monotone,
boom. Smart, knows what he has to do. I mean, if you think about the fear of a head coach being the play caller, is he's not able to manage all the things that go into the game day experience. And typically you find that if someone's bad at it, they're not able to help manage the rest of the team, and you got penalties out the wazoo, and it's an ugly scene, one in which it's like a car crash and you can't stop talking or staring at it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when it's something that's just working and you don't even think about it, then you ask the question and then I give you the answer, which you would agree with, is I don't even think about it.
You know, that's the best part about it. It's like we don't have anything to criticize because, but I will tell you, when you call, a basic ISO up the middle play and Nick Chubb's turning it into 9 yards, or Kareem Hunt breaks it off to a 20-yard touchdown, or D'Ernest Johnson turns it into, to have running back. We at one point in that game we were averaging 9 yards a carry without a 90-yard run that was skewing the numbers. These were 24-yard runs, 21-yard runs, 11-yard. We were averaging 9 yards with 4 dudes. I mean, that to me, this offensive line is scary, right? And it's almost to the point. It's unfortunately a little bit diminishing of Nick Chubb, because you're like, well, we could throw anybody back there. Kind of remember Kansas City when they had Priest Holmes and then Larry Johnson, and it was you could throw anybody back there in Kansas City and they're going to run. You're going to lead the league in rushing behind that offensive line, which I don't think is the case. I think Nick Chubb is a amazing, phenomenal talent, and for John Dorsey to take the risk on him again with the knee injury in college, and that's why he slipped.
Brutal knee injury,
right. That's why he slipped. So I think Nick Chubb is going to come back from this.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine.
I think he's going to come back to this. If it was a torn MCL or torn ACL, then it's all right, you're gone, and we'll maybe see you next year, maybe. This giving us 4 weeks. This has been the thing that I've been so afraid of for so long with Nick Chubb, because every time I see him running the ball,
I know
it's God, is he gonna get up? And then what happens? A dude rolls on him.
such a freak play.
Yeah, he rolled on him.
And it was like a slow motion roll, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like, I mean, he was just a fat guy who
Like at
rolled
the end of the play.
At it wasn't even near it. It's not like he was like in the mix, like in the shit. He was just away from it, and he was looking this way, and a dude rolls over your leg, and it's like, see you in 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
But the good thing again is,
I think it's a good span of games too. To.
Oh yeah, if you look at the schedule.
Yeah, I mean,
Colts. All right.
If I look up to the bye week, I feel like this is a win this weekend.
When is the bye? Is it after
Vegas?
It's after Vegas.
So we're home against the Colts. Then we go to Pittsburgh. We go to Cincinnati, and then we're home against Vegas. And I got to tell you, I think that
gonna be an interesting one.
I mean, there's a good chance. I feel they could win 3 or 4 of those. I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they run 4 in a row. I think they're gonna lose one of those games. But I don't know. I'm very.
I like how we match up against the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I look at the Colts, I don't think they've got enough weapons to
either side of the ball.
On either side of the ball, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, in order to get into a shootout with us.
And they haven't proven it either. I mean, they haven't proven that they can consistently score 30+ points.
No, and I'm not worried about the Bengals game. I think we'll be fine again.
I will tell you about the Bengals. I think the Bengals are a lot better than people are giving them credit for.
I would agree with that.
Because they're the Bengals. They only lost to the Chargers at home by 3 points. They only lost to us by 5 points. That's, again, within 1 score. They tied the Eagles, again, within 1 score. And then they took care of the Jaguars at home by 8 points. That was a pretty good victory there. Although I think, if I'm looking at the box score of that thing, they gave up 12 in the fourth quarter. They were dominating that game, 17 points in the third quarter, and then they gave up 12 to kind of make it a game in garbage time. But they really dominated the Jags. So now they're going to have the Bengals, and they're going to get stomped by the Bengals. Or by the Ravens, I'm sorry. They have the Ravens. They're going to get stomped at the Ravens.
Let me ask you this. Next 4 games to the bye, what do you see our record?
Oh, I think the game that worries me the most is the Raiders game.
You know, it's funny you say that because, and I don't know if I'm just nuts, but that's the game. That's the one. Like I almost feel like we win next week, we go into Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, and win, and then the Raiders game is the wild card for me going into the bye. I don't know why I think that.
It's because it's I think
blind optimism. I don't know. But.
I think it's the any given Sunday to me that like. It's also that we're not also used to winning like this. So we're like, when is that Grim Reaper gonna come and rear his ugly head? But I think we're gonna carry momentum into the Colts game at home. We're gonna want to come. We're gonna have more fans in the stands now, right? 12,000 are gonna be in the fans. So we're gonna have. Yeah, so we're gonna. How many is it?
4:25 start.
Yes, you're right. It's a late game.
Yeah, but 12 grand.
It's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be a nice. There's gonna be a little bit more of an audience for it. Yep. Right? People want to watch this. We got 2 good teams, 3-1 versus 3-1. I'm trying to think. Like, are we gonna get a little bit of night action in that? Like in Cleveland, is it?
Yeah, no. Probably,
up north, is it getting darker?
4:25. Yeah, I mean it's maybe it'll start hitting dusk because it gets dark here at about 7ish now.
Let's look at the weather report in Cleveland coming up for Sunday, 2 p.m. It's going to be 68 degrees. So it'll be nice. It'll be really nice football weather, which is fine, right? So I think we match up well against the Colts, and I'm not super worried about that. I know that we're currently, or at least we were yesterday, a 1-point dog.
Yeah,
which is like
1.5 or so.
Yeah, people are like just saying it's disrespectful. It's like no, I'm not saying it's disrespectful. It is. Like they're 3-1, they've earned that, and we still are the Browns, and we're still earning it back. Then you get the Steelers at the Steelers, who are the 3-0 Steelers. Okay, that's not going to be a pushover game.
Horrible teams though. I think it was a combined 0-9 at the time.
Right. So you got that right, but then you got the Browns Steelers, and that's going to be a really interesting. I think this is going to be the game that we're going to try to really assert ourselves, because if we're going into that game potentially being 5-1.
You gotta go in there. You gotta roll.
And then we got to really put it down on them, right? Because then we're tied for first.
And then you got another statue, because I mean, Ben's not running. I mean, he's slick back in the day,
just elusive.
Those days are over. Yeah, those days are over. I think at this point.
Yeah, and God knows what we're gonna. I mean, Miles might kill him
and who
physically
knows? I mean,
kill him.
his elbow could go out this week, and we don't even see him. So.
It might even be an upgrade, to be honest, but I don't know. I think he's doing okay so far. But yeah, you're right. It could at any point. But I think we match up really well against the Colts, and I think we match up really well against the Steelers. However, both again, it's going to come down to our secondary, because the Colts, Philip Rivers, he'll throw 60 times a game, no problem. And Philip Rivers throwing 60 times a game at this point in his career is scary versus like a Joe Burrow throwing 60 times a game, right? Yep. Again, Roethlisberger throwing 60 times a game, he won't throw 60. He might throw 35. And if he does, then Ben Roethlisberger makes mistakes. Ben Roethlisberger doesn't realize that he's like 40-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. He's going to still try to throw it in there, and then you got opportunities for guys like Denzel Ward to make a play. The Bengals game, I wouldn't say the Bengals game is a guaranteed win, because I think they're coming up, and I think they're finding their own. I think you're getting Joe Burrow with more snaps, which is why I was very happy to get him second game of the season coming off a short week, right, in Cleveland. This is going to be in Cincinnati. We just don't play well there for whatever reason, but on paper we should win that game. Okay.
Yeah, I think if you want to get where you want to get, you don't lose that game.
You can't, because the Bengals they had the first pick in the draft. They were the worst team in the NFL, and they're in division game as well. So that's an even more important thing for a lot of reasons. You gotta beat the Bengals, and you know when they say, like, in order to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And the Steelers have typically been the man in our division. I think the Ravens have clearly kind of taken that crown away from them over the last couple of years. But if we want to be the new rivalry with the Browns-Ravens, we have to be able to take care of the Steelers, and then we can't lose 38-6 against our rival, because then it's just lopsided, and we're like, it's the A+ team versus the B team. We want to be A and A, right? Yeah. And I think that when we get Baltimore at home, December 14th, we're gonna be a different Browns team. They're gonna be a different Ravens team, and it's at home, and it's an 8:15 game. So that is going to be a big time game for us, because then we got two softballs with the Giants and the Jets, and then we finish up the Steelers at home to end the season, which is going to be probably a game that we need to make the playoffs. We'll see. I really like. I don't know if you noticed. Did you listen to the Stefanski post game press conference?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when he said, you know, we like to break down the season in quarters.
Yep. And
the first quarter is done, and I'm pretty happy with the result of the first quarter of the season. Yep. I was like, again, that's a way you think of things from a business from a sales perspective. Right? From a business perspective, you're looking at it like, we're not trying to swallow the elephant in one bite. We got to break it up into chunks and execute within a certain period of time, and then look at learnings and look at certain things, and then optimize based on what's working and get rid of the things that didn't work. So then the next quarter, you're improving and getting better. And I think Stefanski, because while I think he's a smart, nobody would ever say he's not a smart dude. He's not. Nobody ever is going to say, like, Freddie Kitchens versus Stefanski, who's the smarter coach.
Right.
The one knock I have against him, one knock so far, other than he's gotten very lucky with a lot of things going our way. He is the opposite of the Hugh Jackson luck, opposite of Freddie Kitchens luck he's getting. But beyond that, the one thing that I would say is a concern, just an observation, is that if you look at coaches that are leaders of men, you look at Schottenheimer, right? You look at Jimmy Johnson, the coach, right? You look at guys like that, even Belichick to a degree, right? Belichick in his own right, almost more from like a fear perspective, just had a command about them. And I think if Bill Belichick's screaming at you, screaming at your defense, you're going to listen. Schottenheimer, when he's screaming. Bill Cowher, another. Just I just want to. I think more expressive and more emotional type coach. And I haven't seen that yet. I can see Stefanski. Let's say we did win the Super Bowl. Stefanski's just going to keep his mask on and just be like,
we don't even know if he's smiling. We don't even know what. We have no idea what his reaction to touchdowns are, to good plays.
We don't know.
We have no idea.
All right, here's another observation. I don't know if you ever picked up on this. He calls the players by their number.
Yep. I love
it. That's a psychological move. He's not going Baker. He's going 6.
Yep.
He's going 13 to a 95. And all that does is it says, look, guys, you are a number on the field. We are a product. We have 100 potential numbers you could be, and you guys are all one of those numbers. You're not OBJ, Jarvis, Baker, Miles, Denzel. Now, yes, he'll refer to them as that in the press conference. He's not going to reveal, 21 at a pretty good. I mean, that'd be weird, but he does it to them. And I think it's a psychological game that he's kind of playing, being like, you guys are just numbers, right? And not to say like it's to be in a dismissive way, but more about to remind them that
like a ball coach.
Yeah, you're a player on the field. Like, get out of your own head and just execute what you need to execute. And it doesn't have to be flashy, right? It can be just win the game.
And what I find interesting too about him and the team in general is that the one thing that he's always hammered home since Jump Street when we got to the games was, we don't look ahead, we don't look behind, we got this one, and then we're on to the next one, because you only play one game each week. And whatever happens, and now you're on to the next one.
Which honestly, think about the Ravens. Think about the Ravens going into the Bengals game.
Yep.
There wasn't time to think about it.
No.
You didn't have to dwell on it. You didn't have to feel bad for yourself or be embarrassed by it. It's like, no, we're going to make everybody forget about it.
And I think the cool thing is, in 4 days, and I think the cool thing is if you listen to these guys talk now, they've bought into that message. You've heard Baker talk about in a post-game interview. This was just, this was one. We'll watch the tape real quick, and then we're on to the next one. And I've heard Jarvis say it. I've heard Miles say it. I've heard Denzel say it. I've even heard OBJ say it. So it's not something that we're just seeing on the outside in the hopes that it's actually what we're seeing. You're seeing these guys that play for him are now starting to take on that same mindset that he has, which is that coach's vision.
Mm-hmm. And
they've bought in, and here we are.
See, I've always been somebody. I always got motivated by Anthony. What's going on, man? Coming back here. Just want to say we're gonna win against the Colts, so we can be 4-1. I love it, dude. I think I've always been somebody who's been motivated by those emotional, like, powerfully expressive type coaches. I have a guy that I work for now who I've had him on the show. This guy Mark, and from Youngstown, Ohio. Fortunately, he's a Steelers fan. But I just, every time I hear him talk, I'm like, I just want to run through a freaking brick wall. Because I'm like, I just love listening to this guy, and like he motivates the hell out of me. And like I'm not just on the sales end of it. I'm more in a supportive role from a technical perspective. But if I was in the sales role, that's the guy I would want to sell for, right? Or coaches in high school and stuff like that. Coaches that I coached for. I always used to love the guys who just had the energy and brought it. And Stefanski's just not that guy. And I think that honestly, it might work. Because we have so many egos, because we have so many personalities, we don't need a guy who's going to be yelling and like a Gruden type guy, who's just he has the energy and has all that about him, which I think is honestly finally working out for the Raiders after the years of waiting for the stadium to get, waiting for the move and all that stuff. Finally, his team's coming together, and he's still doing it with Derek Carr. Yep. I thought he's gonna get rid of Derek Carr. He's gonna make a move. I mean, especially when you had guys out there. You had Jameis Winston out there. You had who was a knucklehead, but dude, he's produced. Cam Newton was out there. He was available. Who were the other? If you wanted a veteran, you could have got Andy Dalton.
Yep.
There's guys out there.
It's funny to see on the Dallas sideline.
Or Phillip Rivers was out there. They could have got They could have traded, upgraded from Derek Carr to Phillip Rivers for a year or two, and then went and got your quarterback, right? Yeah. So I'm just surprised. There's something about Derek Carr, that he's hooking his wagon to.
Yeah.
And for Derek Carr, he's done all right.
Yeah.
What is their record right now? Are they 2-2? They beat the Panthers, they beat the Saints,
2-2.
Then they lost to the Patriots, then lost to the Bills.
Yep, and they go to KC. Then
they
have a bye.
And then they bring the Bucks, and they're gonna probably lose that game. Yep. So, this could go downhill pretty quickly for the Raiders actually, because the Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Browns. If I was staring at that from the Raiders being 2-2,
yeah. I'd be worried.
I'd be worried because, well, yes, you beat the Saints at home. The Saints are the same Saints. I mean, the Saints they're going to be okay, but they're not the same Saints.
Yeah, they're not the
Super Bowl
top
Saints.
Caliber Saints. Yeah,
no, they're not. They're not a team that you're scared of anymore.
No.
I'd be a lot more scared of the Bills. I think the Bills are the up and coming team. The Bills are going to be one of those teams the Bills are a playoff team. They're going to win that division.
Yeah, I think so.
Then you got the Chiefs, probably Baltimore. I think because what does the playoff system look like this year? Did they expand it by like a team or so, or
I think they did?
They did something.
They did something, but I don't know why. I don't know.
They added an extra wild card, which they honestly they needed to do. How many times have teams got screwed over by the limited amount of playoff games in the NFL? And that's one thing that was probably a really easy negotiating point from the league and the Players Association. Be like, we'll give you more playoff games, just give us less preseason games. And I think that the teams can get behind that because there's a lot of bonuses and stuff to get involved in playoff games. So they don't get anything for the win a preseason game. Whoop-de-fucking do. So I think the players are behind that. But I mean, I'm looking at all the other teams, man. Like in terms of like let me just look at the standings. NFL standings. Okay, so you go down the list. The Bills, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets. Bills are going to win that division. But I do think the Bills still have to be able to beat the Patriots. Again, in order to be the man, you got to beat them. And the Patriots are still the man, even though Tom Brady's not there, although a little bit less of the man. Then you have the Chiefs. They're winning that division easily. Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers. Come on, bro. Give us that division over the Chiefs. Us with the Steelers, Ravens, Browns, Bengals. Who knows, man? Maybe the Steelers do actually have a legit team this year, and we're just not giving them respect, right? What if they are a 12-win team? Holy crap! Again, it's just our luck. Two amazing teams that are consistent with the Steelers and Ravens, and then an upcoming team with the Bengals who have talent.
Yep. So you get one more playoff team per division.
One more. Okay. So you got
or conference, I should say.
Okay, so you get the 4 division winners, 2 of them get buys, right? So
You
right
only
now,
get- the only person that gets a first round bye is the top seed.
it's the only one.
Yep. So the expanded
Okay.
playoff format means that only the top seed will get a first round bye. The fourth
Sucks.
seeds will host the fifth. The top 4 seeds will be division winners, and the bottom 3 seeds will be the wild card teams.
That sucks though. In terms, like, imagine if you're. What if you have the tied record? Like, what are the tiebreakers going to be? Because a lot of times,
I
like
don't
teams are
know.
like 12-4, the top teams, or maybe 13-3 if you have like a really crazy year. But usually there's like a couple teams that are tied for like pretty close to the top. And then also, what about home field advantage? Because usually in the bracket, you have the 2 bye teams, and they have the home field advantage till it gets to the AFC Championship game. And if both those teams make it, then again, it's whoever was the number 1 seed gets home field. It's going to be weird. It's odd. But okay, so then looking at the AFC South, the Titans, Colts, Jags, Texans. Holy crap, man! Texans are falling. They're in the depths. They're in the.
They fired him too late. They should have fired him before he got.
Because then they would have had a chance at Josh McDaniels. I think Josh McDaniels would have taken that job. With Deshaun Watson there, he would have taken that job.
Yeah, easy.
And I think that's who they want. That's all the reports are coming out that their GM is like personal friends with all these ex-Patriot guys. So I think that's probably where, unless Belichick leaves, because I think Josh McDaniels would take over the New England job in a heartbeat. But I don't think Belichick's leaving. So you got the Titans are probably going to win that division. And the garbage NFC, Eagles, Washington, Giants, Cowboys. I don't know. They're all terrible.
It's been a long time since the NFC East was just atrocious.
Trash.
Yeah.
NFC West, Seahawks. Okay, they're 4-1. Rams are a good 3-1. They're better this year. They're back to being the better Rams. Cardinals 2-2. Strangely, could have. I thought the Cardinals were going to take leaps and bounds and just be like a dominant team this year. Seems like they're pretty mediocre.
Yep.
49ers losing Garoppolo, that's going to put a wrench at things. Then you got the NFC North, the Packers, who are looking good. Packers are looking good again.
Really
Bears, I don't know what the Bears are.
Yeah.
I don't, with Trubisky and I don't know what they are.
Magic, I don't know.
Vikings and Lions. See you next year, guys.
Yeah.
NFC South, the Bucks, Saints, Panthers, and Falcons. Falcons, see you next year. Panthers, 2-2. Without Christian McCaffrey, I'm not buying them.
No.
Buccaneers and Saints. Buccaneers. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see who wins that division. I would probably go with the Buccaneers at this point because I don't know what the Saints are doing. But man, I mean, looking at the we have the toughest division in football, and it's like not even close.
No, it's not.
It's, I mean, statistically speaking, yes, there's some tough divisions out there, but 3-0, 3-1, 3-1, 1-2-1. Imagine if all the teams in the AFC North made the playoffs.
Oh
It's just like, hey, we just expanded it, so like it's it. You get the Ravens winning the division, we'll give it to them, and then the Browns, Bengals, and Steelers all get wild cards.
Crazy.
I don't know. Well, hey man, we've been at it for like 2 hours, so I think we both probably. I'm gonna still trying to work out. I gotta go. I'm gonna go get on the Peloton.
Oh my god,
I'm insane.
You didn't work out yet?
No, I was playing Warzone, and then I ate dinner, and I chilled with the family for a little while, and now I'm like, I'll just do it after this. Well, me and Mike, we're only gonna talk for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
So I got to do it. But I want to give a shout out to a couple people before we go. Anthony, how's it going? Cleveland, BCI. Jake is in the house. Acceptness is here. We got some trolls that came into. Some guy named Willis was here trolling. Omnius Onyx Leet 1337. What's going on? Spencer Hicks. I have been reading the chat, guys. I'm sorry if I just haven't. Me and Mike have just been, dominating the conversation the entire time. Quick shout out for Tim Ali Realty, guys. Honestly, between all of this, all the sponsors and everything, Sabo Apparel, Homage, Tim Ali Realty, and now the Schlegel Law Firm. If these guys are like, if we just get one lead coming off of this, we'll pay for you for years, right? So I'm hoping that somebody out here who's watching our show is going to go, you know what? I need I'm selling my house. I'm in Cleveland. I'm selling my house. I need a realtor. I'm just going to call this Tim Ali guy because he's a Brownie postgame supporter. Or yeah, I have an eviction or something that I need help with in the greater Columbus area. I'm gonna go to the Schlegel Law Firm because again they support the Brownie. But that's my hope, and maybe when we get there, maybe one day. But I want to say a big appreciation to all those guys. Sable Apparel as well. I'm wearing Sable Apparel. I'm wearing. Is this a Homage shirt? Yep, there it is. I got the Homage shirt on. So sporting the gear, guys. Sporting the gear. Yeah, so I appreciate all that, and also Mike, appreciate it, man. Follow him at Bonzo1273 on Twitter. Dude is more active on Twitter than I could ever hope to be. Getting deep involved in conversations with some of those guys.
Definitely a fun time. It's always a fun time coming on here with you. We might have to make this like a weekly thing.
Dude, I would love to if we could do like a midweek conversation.
I think it would be a fun thing, and I would be remiss if I didn't say what an extremely sad day, not only for myself but for all the music fans out there.
Oh yeah, I actually wanted to bring that up to you.
Yeah, losing Eddie Van Halen. That's a tough one. Me being older, that was for me, growing up and being an 80s kid.
Yeah.
He was larger than life. So, it's
I couldn't believe it when I didn't know that he was fighting cancer.
Yeah, it's a shame. And I like my top three personally, and not, people will give me some slack for Ace Frehley because, Kiss isn't a real band, but for me, my three favorite guitar players and I was a drummer, my three favorite guitar players were Ace Frehley, Jimmy Page, and Eddie Van Halen. So losing Eddie, like, we need to put, for me, Jimmy and Ace in a bubble somewhere, because I couldn't even bear to even think about losing another one of those guys. But yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you mention that, because you're just like a little bit ahead of me in terms of, I think you're a couple. You're older than me, right? You're 70s kid, right?
Yeah, I'm a 70s kid.
Yeah, so I was born in 80. So my guitar player, my favorite, growing up, again, less cultured, a little bit less cultured, because it was a different time. It was a different time.
All right.
My favorite one was Slash.
Sure.
Then Jerry Cantrell and Stone Gossard. My favorite guy.
Little Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
All great guitar players, every one of them.
And different in their own right too. With like Stone more of like a rhythm based, guy, and then Cantrell with acoustic and what he could do with that, and Slash just being that. Sure. I don't know if you can't really call it like. It's not. He wasn't like, it wasn't metal and it wasn't hair.
He was like.
It was like.
It was. If you can take a shredder, but make them a melodical shredder. To me, that was Slash. Like, if you think of Sweet Child of Mine, like that intro. I mean, perfect.
Yeah, and then it's just because you think of like a shredder, you think of like CeCe DeVille, right? You think of like somebody who's just gonna just melt your face with like some wonky or.
You want to laugh about CeCe DeVille? When we did a record showcase at the Viper Room years ago. and he just happened to be walking down the street, and they pulled him into the Viper Room, and he was there that whole show, man. And I'll never forget, he never left, was cheering and whatnot, and we were breaking our stuff down at the end of the night, and he came up right before he was leaving. He was going to a Clippers game, which he's probably late for, I guess, but
yeah. And
he looked at us, and in that CeCe DeVille voice, he said, "You boys be nice, and you'll get yourselves a deal."
I saw Poison, like with one of those like legacy tours later on, like
probably with Faster Pussycat and somebody like that.
It was with Rat.
Oh yeah.
Who else is on that? Who else is on that tour? It was like Rat. Oh God, I
Quiet
think back.
Riot maybe with Quiet Riot on there,
Might have been. Might have
and
been.
that's another guy that a lot of people don't probably, you know, Eddie Van Halen obviously is the legend, so news like that is never going to be, you know, slip through the crack. But
Yeah.
you talk about Quiet Riot, Frankie Banali, fabulous drummer. He actually just passed away probably about 3 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of those guys from those, but those guys lived. When I think about like Eddie Van Halen,
Oh,
you
yeah.
think about um, the life that dude lived, and then you think like guys like freaking like Mick Jagger are still alive. You know,
Or Keith Richards, one up you.
there.
Like, how's
Yeah,
he still alive?
Keith Richards. You know, like
And you can say like Eddie Van Halen was a chain smoker. Like, I
Steven
mean, that,
Tyler.
yeah, another guy. Like Eddie Van Halen smoked so much. But I mean, you look at a Keith Richards. I mean, that dude smoked a lot. He did a lot of drugs. He did a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
And he was Jack Sparrow's father, for God's sake, on
Yeah, and nobody
Pirates of the
blinked an eye. They're like,
Caribbean.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
another great guitar player too, like Joe Perry, from
Oh, yeah.
from Aerosmith. I mean, some of
Aerosmith.
the stuff that he did was, you know, I play guitar, but not like anywhere close to that. But
It's
but I have a respect for it because if you
yeah,
play, even if you play, just like if you played football in high school or anything like that, you have a deep ingrained respect for the level of what it takes to be an actual professional at it.
yep.
And yeah, some of those guys. But Eddie Van Halen, the kind of life that dude must have lived, with the shows and the groupies and the drinking and the, literally in every corner of the planet.
Yeah.
It's just
Yep.
like, hey, go have fun, play catchy, fun songs, and go, hook up with lots of chicks, and just go have fun. That's your life. That's like you're playing life with like a cheat code, you
Right.
know. So I
It's
mean, I think
yeah. It's it's tough for me, and you'll start seeing this too as you get a bit older. But for me, I've started to I've entered that age and that realm. I was just talking about this with a friend earlier, where you're starting to see like guys that you idolized, and like an Eddie Van Halen or whatever, that now they're starting to check on to that next life. And it's just it reminds you of not only how long it's been since you've been a fan or following or worshiping or what have you, but then it makes you think about how your own self is getting older, and it's just a
oh yeah,
it's just a really weird feeling,
yeah.
you know.
It like makes you for a second kind of reflect on what's going on, and honestly, it brings me back. Like my dad's actually going to be here for the Colts game, so we got to watch the Baltimore game together this year, and then now like my parents are coming back from Delaware from their summertime, and they're coming
Over here
back
in
through. Yeah, they're coming back through
my neck of the
Orlando.
woods.
They're going to stop by here and stay over, and I think they're going to get here on Friday, and then Friday or Saturday, maybe I think Friday, and then my wife and my mom are going to do something on Saturday, Sunday. And my dad's like, I think we're going to leave on Saturday, and I was like, no, stay for
The
Sunday.
game.
He's like, what time's the game? Well, I think it's a 4 o'clock game, isn't
Yeah,
it?
4:25.
So it's a 4 o'clock game. Was like, oh, I'm not gonna stay for. I'm like, Dad, stay for the 4 o'clock game. Stay, and then just like we'll do the pregame show. We'll have lunch and we'll just chill. We'll do the pre. We'll watch the 1 o'clock games. Do our pregame show. Watch the Browns game. Do the postgame show. Hang out, and then leave in the morning. Right?
Right.
How many? Like you think
He
about it.
doesn't
Like
have anywhere to be, right?
no, no.
No.
The guy's 72 years old. You know.
Nothing wrong with Monday morning.
No, drive home Monday morning, no problem. Say goodbye to the grandkids.
Have a nice
before you go.
breakfast. Wait for. I mean, not that there's much rush hour anymore, but
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with
Just
everything going on,
go
but
home. Go home
yeah,
the next
yeah.
day. You,
Take
I
a
mean,
nice drive.
the thing about it's like one of those. I have people that reach out to me every once in a while because they know that I do the show with my dad,
Yeah.
and they're like, my dad was the reason why I'm a Browns fan, and I used to have season tickets to go to every, and that's what I did with my dad. Like that was our thing. We went to the Browns games, and it was like I can't like so. I mean, I went to Browns games with my dad. We used to go to the Municipal Stadium. We saw the Browns play a lot of times when I was a kid. But then also, you know, when they come to Miami or when they go to Tampa for the preseason games, when they go to Jackson, we're going to go to the Jacksonville game most likely. And so we've seen a lot of the away games too. And it's like I don't know how that's gonna be the hardest thing for me because our identity is so closely tied to being that with that connection with the Browns.
Yeah.
That and my my kids are young.
Yeah.
They obviously like it and that's
Right.
a cool thing for them. But like I think there's just a difference honestly in our generations a little bit
Yeah.
between when we were kids it was like sports and
Right.
your team and now it's like Fortnite and like Roblox
I
and
gotta
Minecraft.
I gotta tell you, to your point, I almost passed out when I messaged my kids and they came back and said, we saw the touchdown from OBJ to, or from Jarvis to OBJ, and I was like, who is this and what have you done with my kid and their time?
Oh yeah.
So that was like a surprising moment because usually they don't pay it. I mean they'll wear the gear and if we go to a training camp, they're like, all right, well I'll come along. But as far as like being a lunatic like you and I,
yeah,
they're not. I mean, they're not even in the.
Yeah, they're not losing sleep if we lose.
Not even. Yeah, no.
Well, I got to tell you, the interesting thing is my wife, who's never really into sports, never into football really. She started to over the last couple of years. She started to watch the Browns games with me, and now like every once in a while, like I'll go on Fanatics and I'll buy her like a jersey or I'll buy her like a shirt or something like that. So she starts really feeling it, and now she's been watching it. So we put the baby to sleep because right around 1:00 is the nap time for the baby anyway. She goes to sleep, and like my wife finally gets some time to just chill and relax. And we've been watching the game, and honestly, for somebody who's still kind of a neophyte to football, she makes some interesting observations, and I'm like, I can see one day you coming on the Brownie Pod and be like, babe, what do you think of what is your opinion on Talkie Talkie? I can just see that essentially. Like, I can kind of see her getting into it, but again, it'll never be like your dad,
No.
And
what's funny though, I will say, when we're at the games, you would think that in the dog pound, after a few beers, like I would be the one that you'd have to watch out for. No, it's my wife.
No, it's your wife.
Yeah, she's the kill heckling people. I'm like, oh my god, we get into a brawl.
Do you ever?
She's passionate though.
Are you sitting close to the pumpkin guy?
No, he's on the opposite side.
He's on the opposite side.
Yeah, he's on. We're in the pound, and he's in the other end zone.
Yeah, dude. When the opening clip of the game, the Dallas Cowboys game, the close up of the pumpkin guy, and I'm like, all right, this is.
Joe Buck was excited about it too.
Ah, dude. For some reason, and I at the beginning when I was starting to get into like, a couple years ago when I started like the channel and stuff like that, and getting into like Brown's Twitter, and I didn't know anything about anything, right? I didn't know about anything, like, because I was doing all my social, like all my business stuff basically on Twitter and stuff like that.
And then all of a sudden, a whole new world was open to you.
I was like, holy crap, this Brown's Twitter thing is insane. And then who are the kind of the main people in that? And you just look for the guys who have the most following, right? And
the old days were so good though. Like it's watered down now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, so Twitter for me was weird because like, again, I used Twitter as a different way, so I didn't even realize like how crazy it was. So I was more on the old. I don't know. Do you remember the Bernie's Insiders?
Yeah.
Forum?
Yeah.
So I was into that big time. I was like really did a lot of, and that turned into like the OBR. I think it turned into like Orange and Brown Report, something like that. So there still are some legacy forums out there with some of those crazy guys. Who never even left. They didn't go to Reddit. They didn't go to Twitter. They're still there.
Yeah.
And then also Reddit too. I was big into Reddit.
Yep, you're always a Reddit guy, yeah.
The Reddit thing is like, I look at that sub and I'm like, this is such a dumb place. It's.
I tried.
The The content's just bad. It's basically, you know what it is? It's a place for people who are blocked by Mary Kay and Tony Grossi to go and see what they're saying.
Remember she blocked me?
Yeah, she blocked me too. I was
Yeah,
actually, I have
comes in my DMs to
yeah.
argue why I didn't agree with what
What-
she did, and then blocked me. And then in the middle of the conversation, then
And
I
you
guess
weren't
she
being
felt good
rude,
enough.
right?
Yeah, like I thought, okay, she sees I have a point. I have a lot of followers. She wants to have a conversation, and we did for like about 5 minutes,
Mhm.
and then she just peaced out.
Well, so I do remember that, but I don't remember the nature of what that conversation was,
She-
and I don't also remember you being like, I just called her a bitch or something.
No, it was not. It was nothing even. I really didn't do anything wrong. She made a comment about. I have the screenshots. I got to look it up. Next time we're on together, we'll talk about it. But
All right.
it was something she had said to. I'm trying to think of who was our defensive coordinator last year. I can't think of his name.
Wilkes.
Yes, she asked him a question that I thought
It was like dumb.
was really uncalled for. Like it was rude
Okay.
in my mind. And I can't think of exactly what it was about. But like I said, I'll look it up. But
Yeah.
and I just tweeted it out there, like, yet another insulting whatever question from our Cleveland media or something like that.
Right.
And the next thing you know, I'll never forget. I was working. I had my phone next to me, and I see a direct message come through. And I'm like, okay, who's this? Pick it up. It's Mary Kay Cabot. I'm like, what? And she said something like, how why would you think that I said this, that, and the other thing, or whatever? And I pretty much said, well, if there wasn't any type of truth to it, you wouldn't be in my DMs right now, would you? Why did I strike a nerve with you?
Well, because so here's the reason why, and this is why, and like I know this because like what I do for a living. Actually, I work for a social media based company,
Right.
and so what probably happens a lot of times with those reporters and just Cleveland media people. And I'm gonna remind me to talk to in a second here because we keep going.
I know we got to get out of here.
We got to go out.
52. You got the Peloton.
I know. It's gonna be a late night. It's fine.
I'm a little tired.
But if you think about it, so it's you probably said something that didn't necessarily strike a nerve with her, but it might have been noticed by her editor or her management or something might have seen that and been like, or maybe she was, because she came under fire of the last couple of years with like the fans really went after her.
I'm trying to think
and
how long ago that was.
I think it was last year. It had been last year.
I think it was.
So
I'm gonna
she's
scroll
come
through
under
and
fire,
see
and
if
I
can
think they were
find it.
probably like watching and being like, dude, this is, you can't, like, if people are gonna have legitimate gripes with some of your questions, like she might have had to go in and answer for that or something, right? Maybe. I mean, maybe not. Maybe she was just like, I'm gonna argue with you specifically.
No,
She just blocked me straight up because I was like, I don't think you're a good reporter.
I just couldn't believe that she wound up in my DMs. I'm like,
Dude,
what?
I don't know if you saw this today, but freaking, you see the thing with Aaron Goldhammer and his stuff that went down today?
Mm-mm.
So he goes out there and they're having it live on like Cleveland local radio. This isn't like you and me talking to 22 people and love all of you currently. We had more at one point.
Right.
It was over. But it's not like you and I talking to a couple of people on the internet. They're talking to the Cleveland market, right? And probably also, syndicated online and all that kind of jazz.
Right.
So they get on there and because I think something trended or something like that about like who your Twitter crush is. So there's one dude on the show. His last name is Grossi, so he might be like, no, it was Rizzo. Sorry, Rizzo. Might have been.
Yeah.
It might be like Rizzo's nephew or something. I don't know. And if I'm getting this wrong,
boy.
guys, don't clip this and send it to him. I'm making a point here with it. I don't care. I don't know who the kid is, and I'm not trying to make a judgment on the kid. But what I'm making a judgment on. So then they're talking about this, and this kid says that he tags this girl who's like, one of the girls that participates in a lot of the Browns Twitter, that
Right.
that she was his crush, and then she didn't respond or something like that. So they're talking about this on the air. This isn't like you and me having a side
Right.
conversation, and it's not like you and me talking to less than 100 people on the internet. They're talking about, again, the media. They're talking about some random girl like on Twitter. You're a father of girls. I'm a father of girls, and I got to tell you, if that would have happened,
Oh,
then they're not only talking about it on the radio, then they go out and start tagging people in the conversation, and Gab, who's out there, um, notices it, and she's like, dude, this is really creepy. You're probably gonna want to delete this, right? And then I saw it because she mentioned it and somebody retweeted it or something like that, or maybe it just showed up on my time. I don't know. I was
right.
active. I'm pretty active today, and I was like, dude, that's creepy as fuck. That is real creepy. That like they're saying this
That
about
they're
some
talking
girl on
about that.
Twitter, and then poor girl is like, yeah, sorry, I didn't see it. Like maybe she did see it and she was just not trying to be rude to the guy, or maybe that happens to her a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Like God forbid, like girls on the internet. That's a that's a scary it's a scary pill to swallow anyway, right? But either way, I just thought it was really really creepy that Gold, and then the official Goldhammer Hammer Nation, fucking Hammer Nation, starts going out, and then finally they did delete it, and I'm like, good dude, like come to your senses. Hey, that Hammer guy's
I'm
he's
so
bad. He's
aggravated I
bad
can't
news
find this.
too, man. Like our whole there are some good ones. Like
I'm so aggravated I can't find this.
oh, you can't find the direct message conversation with Mary
No,
Kay?
I'm angry about it. I'm gonna find this damn thing.
I'll find it for you. If you look back, if you look to my messages, somewhere in there, it was deleted, right? It was deleted. Let me see if I can find it. This is actually kind of interesting to bring up because it wasn't that long ago,
No, it wasn't. I don't
but
know why I
but
can't.
it was deleted, and so it was like I don't know if this is happening or not. If they're what they're doing here. Oh, I guess it was because I don't even see my reply anymore. I don't even see my reply to Gab because it was right around middle of the day. But either way, it was deleted, and it was just like I'm not gonna name who the girl was or anything like that.
Yeah.
Gab can hold her own. She's basically verified at this point, so she's almost like a public figure. But I mean, yeah, it was a weird thing for the Cleveland media to do. So this is just goes to show the Cleveland media, those guys, and I go after them quite a bit. I don't know if you saw my new meme template.
Yes, that was great.
I'm gonna do that
I think the one of the
every
dudes
single
liked
week.
it. I thought, didn't he?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't. It got like so.
I could have sworn.
I
Was
tagged
it Hayden
McNeil in
Grove?
it, and then he retweeted it. And anytime McNeil like hits anything from like we are in this Browns algorithm that if McNeil retweets me, it's just like okay, all of the followers now get to see it.
That's
So
funny.
I don't know. Maybe it got 209 comments, and people were like, "Oh my god, they did it again! Come on!" And like people didn't realize that it was. And I thought by me putting quotes what Cleveland.com said, that would like get people to say,
Right.
"Oh, it's not obviously." But 117 retweets and 762 likes, and this is going to be the new meme template every week about. And they talked about it on the show. I'm sorry, Big Play Dave and McNeil were talking about it on the Big Play show. They're like, couldn't one of them just have said they think the Browns are going to win? Just,
Just one.
maybe go. Hey, look, 6 of you guys have already said that they're not going to win. Maybe we just have like, I don't know, like, like, like Pluto. You've been around for a while. Let's show a little faith. All right, let's show a
Right.
little faith in the Browns.
Just a little.
And again, it's 35-31. Just say the Browns, just so we can have
I
somebody. But
I
then,
cannot believe I can't find this.
well, I know Hammer deleted. I'm sure I could find mine
Oh no, I was
because
trying. I'm trying to find my Mary Kay
your Mary
conversation.
Kay thing.
Can't
There you
find
go.
it.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
we'll
but
just
like
hang
if
on for the next
look at
time.
these guys, Mary Kay. I think Hayden Grove is actually an okay guy. I don't.
That's who it was. That's who I thought liked it
Yeah,
when I saw
he's an
it.
alright guy. Like I don't know if I've talked to him or not, but he's an alright guy. I don't know anything about Dan Labe, or I don't know if it's Lab or Labe. Um, Doug Lesmer, sir. I don't know. I don't know Doug either. Scott Pasco. I know Terry Pluto. I mean, Terry Pluto's been around. You know, Terry Pluto's got an unverified Twitter account.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, really? Terry freaking Pluto? You've got everybody else under the sun. They got guys who have less than 1,000 followers, but Terry Pluto doesn't get one. Pretty sure he should be verified.
I found it. So she said something. She asked Steve Wilkes something about. We'll just put it this way. Here was my tweet. Did it ever occur to Mary Kay Cabot that your line of questioning was insinuating that a good man, Steve Wilkes, has no integrity and is coaching dirty hits and insinuating that he was encouraging a bounty bowl type atmosphere?
I can answer that question for you. No, it never did occur to her.
Right. Just so ignorant at this point, all of them. That's all I tweeted, right?
Did you mention her?
Yes.
Okay, so you were talking at her about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, ding dong, in my DMs. Did it ever occur to you that Steve Wilkes absolutely deserves a chance to respond to and refute charges that his D played a dirty game? Well, that's not how you posed the question. And who said it?
And where are the charges that his D played a dirty
Correct.
game?
So I said, if that's what you were going for, I believe you could have asked the question or phrased the question in a different way that would have seemed less accusatory. I do appreciate you reaching out, though. That's all I said, right?
Yeah.
She says, I asked how he would respond to charges that his defense headhunted or played a bounty game. He deserved a chance to refute that. I also asked him if Miles' hit was late, the way Mason said it was, and he deserved a chance to say it wasn't. I go to respond back to that, right, which makes no sense. You can no longer send direct messages to this person, and then I was blocked.
Here's the problem, man. Nothing you said was wrong, by the way. Like you didn't go into her DMs and was like, listen.
No. And she just did it was it last week? Yeah. She's always trying to stir stuff. Because last week she asked, I mean, you are one of how many that get to ask the coach a question, right? Or to actually
like 11. And you notice how like they can't even figure out how to unmute themselves?
Yeah.
They're like, okay, next up we've got Daryl Ryder. Go ahead, Daryl. And then they just wait and they're like, all right, we're gonna move on.
We'll go to you, Dan Lobby, who blocked me. Might I? He must be, because him and Mary Kay do that podcast or whatever. Shortly after she blocked me,
I didn't even know they had a podcast.
Never even said anything. But anyway,
that's amazing.
She asked at the last press conference. Excuse me. So she's got this. She's one of, like you said, maybe 11 that get this opportunity to do what she does, and she says, do you think that it is, how did she word it? Is it rewarding to you, OBJ, that, essentially, Baker threw a horrible pass and you were able to then play defense and show off your defensive skills? How did that
just
feel?
the way you phrased that question. The way she phrases that question, it's like, well, how is he supposed to answer? She's supposed to be like, you know what, it was a shitty pass, and you know what, I'm really getting sick of this Baker guy. And that's what she's looking for.
Yeah, and that's the same way she asked that question to Wilkes, and it rubbed me the wrong way. And she had to have a little doubt in her mind in order to go into my DMs about it. Why did she need to explain it to Mike Ristano?
Honestly, it's really interesting that she like singled out you, because you know how many people like talk shit to her.
Oh yeah.
That she
why me?
Why you?
Yeah.
Like, maybe because she's like, I watched the Brownie post game show after the Baltimore, and I know who you are.
I know who that bastard is.
No, I mean, I don't know. I think it's clear if you look at the media on Twitter as well, and like Daryl Ryder, man, he says stuff, and people just
everyone shuts the comments off now.
They're like, we don't like you. You don't speak for us. You don't even speak for the Browns, let alone everyone. Right. He says stuff, and he for some reason they get the blue check mark, and they got this big ego that they can do or say whatever the hell they want, and the sheep that are in Cleveland that are just going to be like, oh, okay, well, I guess he's the de facto voice of the team. Well, we got to listen to dude. If you would give independent content creators, like not even you and me, just give guys like give Quincy a shot at asking some questions.
I still think that it was a sin that they didn't hire on Jake full-time, Jake Burns.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I mean, he's got his own independent content
Yeah.
stuff going on.
Yeah.
Let
Like, he would have
Suryat
been
ask some
fabulous.
questions.
Remember, he would ask great questions to the
Yeah, like
stuff that
actual
we.
based in
Yes.
stuff that not only fans want to know, but also from like the game
Yep.
perspective.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you got the writers out there, and you just feel like I think I was like I think I like really had a really shitty tweet towards Daryl last year and was like, look, you guys with your communications degrees who never took a snap at any level of football, not JV, not high school, certainly not college, and definitely nothing above that. You guys think that you have the right to sit there and analyze or have a comment about how our quarterback is playing? I mean, to me, I look at that and I'm like, you're no better than honestly my wife, who's a casual fan, going, that didn't look like a good pass, without realizing that like, hey, pressure came from two sides. You had a missed block. Your running back didn't pick up one of them. He was forced out of the pocket, had to make a quick decision, decided to blah blah blah. But not even being able to break that shit down, they're asking and they're again accusatory type questions. And so anytime I ever bash the Cleveland media, which by the way is not uniform for everybody in Cleveland. Like Cameron Justice, I really like her, and I think that she's great and she's gonna have a really good positive future. But an up and comer, right? And somebody who's newer into the system, who hasn't been jaded by the current fraternity, which is Brown's media. But so there's some good. I think that guy Hayden Grove is actually pretty good. There's some guys out there that are pretty decent, and I don't mind listening to. But at the end of the day, these guys, some of them are just really bad, and I think the next time there should be a parade in Cleveland if we don't win another championship should be when Grossi and Mary Kay do retire or just leave.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever gonna happen.
But that's what Mary Kay. She's trying to get clicks, and her whole job, unfortunately, like imagine like your whole livelihood and you actually surviving in the world by like doing this, right? Yeah. So she has to come up with narratives that will get people to click beyond like, hey, the Browns beat the Cowboys. She's trying to come up with something that like gets people to do it. So like,
it gets her into my DMs.
Yeah, don't worry. Like we get it. It's just that after years and years of it, and then during the Hugh Jackson era, during the Freddie Kitchens era to a degree, although I'm not even giving the excuse in the Freddie Kitchens because I feel like we were kind of in the upswing and they were still trying to shit on us and keep us down. There's some times where like you could be critical of the team and the decisions being making, and the Haslams and the coaches and the players, and you could do that. But not now. Don't do it now. Not when we have hope. Not when we're moving in the right direction. She should be sitting there going, you know what? I'm just gonna be happy that I am paid to talk to Odell Beckham and ask him questions. And God, just ask him a good one. Ask him about charity that he does. Ask him about how this impacts
breaking up a bad pass.
Yeah, breaking up a bad pass and try to create a rift between him and Baker, right? Which we can all tell that relationship is kind of odd, right? Yeah. So we don't want to add any more fuel to the fire. Anyway, so now we've been at it for 2 hours and 42 minutes.
Yeah, the bike is calling.
God, I gotta hop on the bike. I'm probably just gonna do like 30 minutes on it.
And this was all my fault when I went into Eddie Van Halen. The next thing you know, we went from music back to the Browns.
I literally had topics written down: 3-in-1, new Color Rush uniforms, Cleveland.com writers, the new sponsor, Schlegel Law Firm, Van Halen died, Colts game, specifically their defense was going up with a Chubb injury, and that's it, man. Like we actually we naturally covered pretty much all of the topics, which is great, man. We got to do this more often, man. We got to make this more like a what day is today? Today's Tuesday. If we do like a Tuesday or Wednesday show, right? I'm trying to bake in a show where I just get on and talk to the chat and like get into like just communicate directly with the chat, which I was trying to do yesterday, and I just got tired and life. Yeah, but like I'd love honestly, man. Anytime you want to come on, I'm happy to fire it up and we'll talk Browns.
Yeah,
Hell
we
yeah.
got to talk about this. Maybe we'll do some type of hump day with the mics.
Dude, that'd be great. I actually like that hump day with the mics talking Browns.
Talking Browns.
That was beautiful. Well, hey man, appreciate it. Thank you again for coming on,
Absolutely.
guys. Everybody who's here, hit the like button. I know YouTubers say that, but like literally hit the like button. There's a couple people left. Hit that like button. Make sure that goes up. It helps us with the algorithm. Support the sponsors. Follow Mike on Twitter, and we'll see you next time, guys.